Hey friends, hope you're all doing well. We're doing okay too, just really tired since we've been working non-stop. We wanted to answer a question many of you ask: how does our publishing process work? Most of our audiobooks are first posted on Patreon as paid content. They stay behind a paywall for a few months. After that, they become free to access on Patreon forever. Then, a few weeks later, we upload them to other platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, our community hasn't been growing much, and we could really use your help. Please share our site in your Facebook groups, Discord servers, Reddit threads, Twitter, X, or with any friends who might be interested. Every little bit helps and we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for being with us and supporting what we do. Chapter 1, Brother Shizui, can you lend me your eyes? In the 56th year of Hidden Leaf Village, the Nine Tails attack 6 years ago not only caused the Hidden Leaf Village in the Land of Fire to lose their young and energetic fourth Hokage but also made the situation of the Uchiha clan, one of the founding members of the village, even more difficult. After all, in the disaster 6 years ago, the Sharingan mark in the Nine Tails pupil could not be faked. Faced with the increasingly radical clan members, Shizue Uchiha, who possessed the will of fire, was extremely anxious. At this time, the Uchiha clan was like a powder keg that could explode at any time. Fortunately, the clan assemblies of the Uchiha did not lead to any decision. However, at this moment, Shizue Uchiha has already thought of using his ultimate means. It seems that this is the only way. After coming out of the clan meeting, Shizue Uchiha looked up at the moon, then touched his left eye and said, "Time waits for no one." Shizue plans to go to the Hokage building overnight to report his plan to the third Hokage. In order to conceal his whereabouts, he planned to take a detour through the Forest of Death. However, just after he entered the Forest of Death, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. At first, Shizue thought it was an enemy, but when he saw the person's face clearly under the moonlight, he breathed a sigh of relief, and his expression softened. "Kuragami, why are you here?" The person who came was no stranger to Shizue Uchiha. It was Kuragami Uchiha, a genius in this generation who was as famous as him. Compared to other Uchiha who are good at fire style and Genjutsu, Kuragami Uchiha is like an outlier. He put all his efforts into lightning style. On a battlefield during the Third Shinobi World War, he relied on a lightning style, Kirin, which was like a natural disaster, to destroy 15 Hidden Mist Village squad in one fell swoop and earn the name of Blue Thunder Kuragami. At the same time, in Shizue's eyes, this clan member who is 1 year younger than him is a rare clansman who possesses the will of fire. In his work in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, he is always kind to the villagers. Moreover, Kuragami Uchiha almost never participates in the clan meetings of the Uchiha clan, for which the radical factions in the clan have complaints. "I have just finished my daily training." "But, Brother Shizui, why did you come to the Forest of Death at this time?" Kuragami Uchiha smiled gently. "I couldn't sleep, so I went out for a walk," Shizue explained. After all, he couldn't just say that he was going to the Hokage building to deliver information about the clan meeting. "Is it because of clan and village matters?" Kuragami Uchiha said. "Yes." Shizue Uchiha sighed. "Kuragami, you should understand that if the clan rebels, they will definitely not be a match for the village. At the same time, the village will also be seriously damaged, and the peace that we have finally achieved will be shattered." Shizue was not too wary of Kuragami. Kuragami's friendly working style in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force made Shizue want to pull him to the same front. People who live in peace often don't realize the value of peace. Kuragami Uchiha said, "At the same time, the clan member's vision is limited to itself, which naturally leads to this predicament." After hearing what Kuragami Uchiha said, Shizue was very pleased. He didn't expect that in addition to Itachi Uchiha, who was praised by the third Hokage as having the thinking of a Hokage, there was another young man with a long-term vision in the clan. "However, I do have some ideas about the current predicament of the clan and the village. However, this solution requires your help, Brother Shizui." The clear light sprinkled through the gaps in the woods landed on Kuragami's kunai, reflecting a gentle light. Shizue Uchiha asked seriously, "What do you need me to do?" "Brother Shizui, please lend me your eyes." Kuragami's words made Shizue Uchiha shudder, and the next moment, a flash of blue lightning flashed in Shizue's eyes. The sound of metal clashing echoed in the sky above the Forest of Death. Shizue Uchiha drew out his ninja sword at the critical moment and narrowly blocked the fatal blow. "Kuragami? Why?" Shizue asked during the stalemate. "You are planning to stand on the side of the village, right? In order not to be noticed by the clan members, you even went around in such a long circle to report to the Hokage." Kuragami's voice was as cold as ice. The two retreat as soon as they clash and confront each other with weapons in their hand while staring at each other with the three Tomoe Sharingan in their eyes. So your vision is also limited to the clan? I thought you were also a fellow ninja with the will of fire. Shishue's eyes turned cold. Kuragami's strike just now aimed to take his life. Ha ha ha. Kuragami raised his head and laughed wildly. Ridiculous. You and Itachi think you have the village's best interests in mind, yet your eyes fail to see the future of both the clan and the village. You are no different than a frog at the bottom of a well. Kuragami's body was covered around by lightning. My vision has long surpassed this tiny corner of the world. What I see is far beyond your imagination. This sick world needs a complete revolution. Are you planning to start a war? You lunatic. Shishue Uchiha gritted his teeth and said, I thought you didn't participate in the clan meeting because you loved peace, but I didn't expect you to be even crazier than those clan elders. I was really fooled by your disguise. No. The reason why I don't participate in the clan meeting is not that complicated. It's just because I don't want to associate with insects. Kuragami Uchiha said indifferently, they keep shouting about rebellion, but they have never discussed a feasible plan. How can I manage politics well if I'm with this group of insects? I see. Shishue Uchiha took a deep breath and seemed to have made up his mind. Kuragami, your idea is too dangerous. For the sake of the village, I must stop you. The three Tomoe and Shishue's eyes spun rapidly and turned into a windmill-like pattern. Is this your trump card? Kuragami Uchiha looked at the scene coldly, a genjutsu that can modify a person's will, Kodo Matsukami. Shishue Uchiha's eyes suddenly widened. Since his Mangekyō Sharingan was awakened, it has never been exposed. Why could Kuragami Uchiha reveal his visual jutsu ability in one sentence? You look surprised? Kuragami Uchiha laughed, then pointed at his eyes and said, I've said it before, my eyes can see farther than you think. After saying that, the three Tomoe and Kuragami Uchiha's eyes began to change, and three sharp lightning patterns surrounded the pupil in the middle. Mangekyō Sharingan? Shishue looked at Kuragami in disbelief. He did not expect the other party to have such a trump card. Chapter 2, Kuragami Uchiha. Does it surprise you that I possess these eyes, which even someone as insignificant as you could awaken? Kuragami Uchiha said while looking at Shishue. Kuragami, your thoughts are too dangerous. For the sake of the village, I'm sorry. After seeing the Mangekyō Sharingan in Kuragami Uchiha's eyes, Shishue Uchiha did not dare to delay any longer and launched the Kodo Matsukami visual jutsu in his left eye, which was originally prepared for Fugaku Uchiha to permanently change his mind. However, the next second, he felt a sharp pain in his eyes, and Shishue's vision fell into eternal darkness in an instant. Since I already know the effect of your visual jutsu, how could I not be on guard against it? Kuragami Uchiha's voice sounded beside Shishue, who was already in darkness. How did you do that? Shishue asked with difficulty while covering his empty eyes with one hand. My Mangekyō Sharingan visual jutsu is called the 80 Calamities Amaterasu. Kuragami Uchiha disarmed Shishue Uchiha while he was still not used to the darkness and sealed his chakra. Then he explained, it allows me to see countless possibilities in a moment and make the most correct choice. You used your visual jutsu on me, and I dodged and killed you. This is one of the possibilities. How do you know my visual jutsu? Although he no longer had the strength to fight, Shishue still tried to obtain as much information as possible. I said, my eyes can see the future that you cannot see. Kuragami Uchiha said while playing with the pair of Mangekyō Sharingan in his hands. A prophetic visual jutsu? Shishue smiled bitterly, it seems that everything I do is under your control, right? Kuragami Uchiha did not answer Shishue's question but continued, the clan records describe the Mangekyō Sharingan as the eyes that reflect one's soul, but I prefer to call them the eyes of answers. Every Uchiha who has awakened them has faced an internal trial, and the visual jutsu born from their eyes was their answer to that trial. Since you repeatedly emphasize your magnanimity, then I would like to know why, when facing the question about the clan and the village, your answer is to dominate the will of others. Do you also think that the conflict between the clan and the village cannot be reconciled under normal circumstances? Kuragami Uchiha asked. Facing Kuragami Uchiha's heart-piercing question, Shishue Uchiha fell into silence. Kuragami Uchiha was right. It was precisely because he could not see any future for the village and his clansmen that he gave up on himself, and the trace of ninja brutality buried deep in his heart made him awaken such a nearly rogue visual jutsu. Really, what an arrogant answer. Kuragami Uchiha said lightly, the blood of the clan has given you such ability, but you want to use it on your own clan. What are you going to do with my eyes? Shishue Uchiha asked through gritted teeth, control the third Hokage? Your conspiracy will not succeed. Even if you can control the third Hokage, The other people in the village will not sit idly by and watch the Uchiha rebellion. The strength of the village is not something that a single clan can contend with. You will push the Uchiha into the abyss. You are still so arrogant, brother Shizui. Kuragami Uchiha chuckled and untied the restraint on Shizui. You still refuse to admit that I am more capable than you? Directly controlling Hiruzen Sarutobi? That is only the most basic use of these eyes. After saying that, Kuragami Uchiha took out a test tube from his arms and threw it to Shizui Uchiha. Although he couldn't see, the ninja's keen perception still allowed Shizui Uchiha to easily catch what Kuragami Uchiha threw to him. What is this? I got a pair of 3 tomoe from the Naka shrine. Kuragami Uchiha said, you can go. You won't kill me? Shizui Uchiha was stunned when he heard this. Kill you? Kuragami Uchiha smiled softly. Why should I kill you? Kuragami Uchiha patted Shizui's shoulder and said, go, tell Hiruzen Sarutobi the power of your eyes. Then, use these eyes from your ancestors to take a good look at the new future I have opened up. After saying that, Kuragami Uchiha turned around and left the forest of death without looking back. After returning to his residence on the edge of the Uchiha clan's territory, Kuragami Uchiha summoned his ninja hawk, transferred the 2 Mangekyō Sharingan on it, and then cancelled the summoning. Now that I have Koto Umatsukami, my plan can really begin. Kuragami Uchiha came to the window and looked at the night outside. The bright lights of the Hidden Leaf village in the distance formed a sharp contrast with the silence in the Uchiha clan's territory at the moment. Ever since he was transported to this world by a huge truck 14 years ago, Kuragami Uchiha has always felt that he is out of tune with this sick world. After all, even evil capitalism was a little too advanced for this shinobi world. In his previous life, Kuragami Uchiha was just an ordinary office worker whose only hobby was studying science in his spare time. He didn't expect that after coming to this world, he would be given such a last name that symbolizes loyalty by his dead parents. Because of this fucked up world, Kuragami Uchiha had to learn how to kill when he was a child, and then he stepped onto the battlefield at the age of 9 under the deception of the will of fire. Fortunately, the blood in his body gave him the talent to survive. At the same time, he also awakened the ultimate power of his clan, the Mangekyō Sharingan, in the crisis of life and death, and finally survived until the end of the war. However, Kuragami Uchiha knew very well that surviving the battlefield was not the end. The night of genocide a few years later was also something he had to consider. However, the Uchiha clan meeting, which has always been a traditional one, is filled with endless and meaningless quarrels, so Kuragami Uchiha knows that if he wants to change the future, he can only rely on himself. And getting Shizui's Koto Umatsukami is just the first step in his plan. Although he had other thoughts, Kuragami Uchiha's evaluation of Shizui today completely reflected his true opinion: arrogant, stupid, and naive. He possessed a weapon like Koto Umatsukami but ended up with a tragic death in the original timeline. It was obvious that he only needed to show off the ability of his eyes to become the sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of Hidden Leaf Village's high-level officials and the Uchiha clan, but he chose the stupidest approach. Fortunately, it is mine now. Kuragami Uchiha, at the window, smiled indifferently and looked in the direction of Hokage Rock. The 4 Hokage's faces under the night sky were dim and unclear. Kuragami Uchiha stared at the 3rd Hokage one. So, as the current Hokage, what would you do? Chapter 3, Hiruzen Sarutobi's response. After Kuragami Uchiha left, Shizui Uchiha didn't even bother to replace his eyes with the one given to him by Kuragami Uchiha but rushed quickly towards the direction of the Hokage building. Although Kuragami Uchiha said that he would not use his eyes to control the Hokage, Shizui still did not dare to take the risk. At least, let the Hokage-sama be on guard. With this belief, Shizui Uchiha endured severe pain in his eyes and stumbled to the Hokage building. Shizui Uchiha. The 2 Chunins who were in charge of guarding the door of the Hokage building were also shocked after seeing the person coming and his miserable condition. You know, this is the famous Shizui of the body flicker. Why would he become like this? I want to see Hokage-sama. Hurry. Shizui Uchiha said hurriedly. What happened? At this time, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who heard the noise, also walked out of the office. When he saw Shizui's empty eye sockets, he was also shocked. The task he gave to Shizui today was to investigate the situation of the Uchiha clan, but now Shizui was seriously injured. Is the Uchiha clan really going to rebel? Shizui. Quick. Call the medical ninja over. Hiruzen Sarutobi hurriedly gave the order. 3rd Hokage, I have an emergency to report. We'll talk about the medical ninja later. Shizui Uchiha said hurriedly after hearing Hiruzen Sarutobi's voice. Okay. Seeing that Shizui was very emotional, the 3rd Hokage had no choice but to take him into his office and dismiss his attendants. Tell me, Shisui, what happened? Hiruzen Sarutobi asks while preparing for the worst. Shisui Uchiha took a deep breath and told Hiruzen Sarutobi everything that happened, including the ability of his eyes, which was taken away by Kuragami Uchiha, not daring to hide anything. Hiruzen Sarutobi's expression became more solemn the more he listened. To be honest, he had already prepared himself mentally for the Uchiha clan to rebel, but the information Shisui brought was far more serious than that. Kuragami? The third Hokage had lit his pipe at some point. After he exhaled a long puff of smoke, the image of Kuragami Uchiha came to his mind. In the third Hokage's impression, this person, who was as famous as Shisui and had made great achievements in the Third Shinobi World War, was not as arrogant as other Uchiha. Although he was a little more eccentric and taciturn than Shisui, the smiling law enforcement policy he implemented in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force was widely praised by the villagers and made a great contribution to easing the relationship between the villagers and the Uchiha clan. Originally, Hiruzen Sarutobi thought that this was also Uchiha with a will of fire like Shisui, but he did not expect that he had such a conspiracy in secret, and now, the other party had the power of 2 pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan in his hands. Third Hokage, you must be careful. Don't give Kuragami an opportunity. Shisui Uchiha reminded Sarutobi loudly. I understand, Shisui. Don't worry. Things haven't gotten that bad yet. Hiruzen Sarutobi smoked a cigarette and comforted Shisui, go now and have the surgery first. Hokage-sama. Shisui said anxiously. Shisui, you must understand what makes a Hokage a Hokage. It is not just power but recognition by the entire village. If he believes that controlling me means controlling Hidden Leaf Village, then he is gravely mistaken. Hiruzen Sarutobi patted Shisui's shoulder and said, so, go with peace of mind, we still need your strength to stop his plot. Hokage-sama. Hiruzen Sarutobi's words made Shisui choke a little, I understand. I will definitely stop him. After Shisui Uchiha was taken to undergo eye replacement surgery, a figure on crutches slowly walked out from the shadows of the Hokage's office. Hiruzen, what are you still hesitating about? The visitors saw Hiruzen Sarutobi sitting in the Hokage's office chair without saying a word and immediately asked anxiously, do you want to become a puppet of that inherently evil Uchiha brat? Danzo, be patient. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked up at his old partner, things haven't came to that point yet. It's obvious that Kuragami has been planning to rebel for a long time. If we continue to sit and wait for death, it will be too late. Danzo saw that Hiruzen Sarutobi was still hesitating and immediately said angrily, also, the Uchiha have long been planning to rebel. When they know that Kuragami has awakened the Mangekyō Sharingan, I'm afraid they will rise up today. We must take the initiative now and capture Kuragami. Enough. Danzo. I am the Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi said angrily. Hiruzen. You're going to regret this. Bang. After Danzo slammed the door and left, Hiruzen Sarutobi took a deep puff of his cigarette and looked at the night outside the window. Based on his understanding of Danzo, he would definitely lead people to kill Kuragami Uchiha in private, and Hiruzen Sarutobi would be happy to see it happen. If he succeeded, everyone would be happy. If Danzo failed, it would just be Danzo's personal behavior and would have nothing to do with him as the Hokage. For so many years, this had been an unspoken understanding between the two. It's been a really eventful time lately. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed in the smoke-filled Hokage's office. The next morning, the sun rose as usual. After waking up from the bed, Kuragami Uchiha simply washed up and set off to work at the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. Kuragami Uchiha had just entered his office and hadn't even sat down when Fugaku Uchiha, the captain of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force and also the head of the Uchiha clan, walked in. Kuragami, get ready. There is an urgent mission in the village. This time, you will go with Inika and Saito, and you will lead the team. Fugaku Uchiha said with a serious face. I understand. Kuragami Uchiha nodded. He was not surprised by this. Instead, he felt that this mission came a little too early. Are the people on the Hokage's side so impatient? After Fugaku Uchiha left, Kuragami Uchiha gently drew out the sword from his waist, and the cold blade reflected his face. After sheathing his sword back into its scabbard, he gathered his gear and picked up the mission scroll. At the front of the gate of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, Kuragami Uchiha waited for his teammates for this operation. Inika Uchiha and Saito Uchiha are both outstanding members of the younger generation of the Uchiha clan. Although they are far inferior to Shisui and him in terms of strength, they became Chunin and awakened the two Tomoe when they were less than 20 years old. But their problem was the same as that of most Uchiha people. Their limited brain capacity was completely occupied by the sense of honor of the big clan. Therefore, The two of them had some complaints about Kuragami Uchiha, who always advocated law enforcement with a smile. However, with the current mission at hand, the two of them still gave a standard salute when they saw Kuragami Uchiha. Kuragami Uchiha nodded and then said, "Let's go." Chapter 4, Danzo's ambush. The mission Kuragami Uchiha received was to go to the northwestern border area to eliminate the spies of the Land of Earth. After leaving the village, the three of them sped up and headed towards the mission area. However, before they arrived at the mission location, figures wearing masks of various colors surrounded the three of them in all directions in the blink of an eye. Anbu? Uchiha looked at the visitor's attire, and his expression froze. No, not the Anbu, but the Root. Kuragami Uchiha remained calm and drew out the sword from behind him. Get ready for battle. Damn it. What does the village mean? They are actually attacking ninjas from the same village? Saido Uchiha said indignantly as he took out a kunai to fight. Kuragami Uchiha, the rebel of the Uchiha clan, today I will come to eliminate you, the destabilizing factor for the village. Danzo's sinister voice sounded, but Kuragami Uchiha looked around and did not see Danzo. You are such a coward, how dare you speak nonsense here? Kuragami Uchiha replied back disdainfully. Kuragami Uchiha, put away your little tricks. You want to force me to show up and use the Mangekyō Sharingan you stole from Shizue Uchiha on me, but unfortunately, Shizue Uchiha has already revealed everything. The village already knows that you stole his Mangekyō Sharingan with the intention of rebellion. Why don't you surrender? Kuragami, what did he mean? Uchiha asked in confusion. Now is not the time to talk about this. Kuragami Uchiha replied as lightning currents flickered around him. Let's get rid of these rats first. Understood. Uchiha and Saido Uchiha nodded and stood back to back with Kuragami Uchiha, forming a defensive formation. They then formed a seal at the same time. Fire style, Great Dragon Fire Jutsu. Two powerful fire dragons rushed towards the surrounding route, and the heat wave of the explosion immediately engulfed the first few root ninjas. Although Danzo brought elite troops to encircle Kuragami Uchiha this time, Inuka and Saido were both the best in the Uchiha clan and were geniuses who had awakened the two Tomoe. On Kuragami Uchiha's side, it was more direct. 9 massive blue spheres of lightning containing terrifying chakra condensed in an instant and then crushed forward in different directions. Lightning style, Lightning Ball, the most basic of the lightning style ninjutsu. It is a ninjutsu that even some of Hidden Leaf Village's lightning attribute Genin can master, but now, in Kuragami's hands, it has such extraordinary power. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen root ninjas were swallowed up by the lightning ball, and no corpse was left. However, the root had already lost any personal will under Danzo's brainwashing. The death of their companions did not stop them, but they continued to rush forward fearlessly. At the same time, they also used water and wind-style ninjutsu, intending to use elements that restrained the three Uchihas. Kuragami Uchiha, you are trying to betray the village by killing Anbu ninjas. Danzo's voice sounded again. What answered him were several thigh-thick lightning bolts that fell from the sky and landed accurately on the area where the root ninjas gathered. The explosion instantly reaped the lives of the root ninjas again, while the remaining water and wind-style jutsu aimed at Kuragami's group were nullified by 6 eerie blue spheres of lightning balls swirling around them at high speed. Are you still not going to show up, Danzo? Kuragami Uchiha said, or do you think you can keep me here by relying on them? Kuragami Uchiha, don't waste your time. It's wishful thinking for you to want to control me. Danzo snorted coldly. Danzo, don't you think too highly of yourself? Kuragami Uchiha released ninjutsu one after another with ease to harvest the lives of root ninjas and chuckled, you are just a rat who can't stand the light of day. You can only live in the sewers all day and can be abandoned by Hirus and Sarutobi at any time. You are not worthy of Koto Umatsukami. At this moment, several huge trees shot up into the sky, forming a giant hand in the air, covering the area where the 3 people were. The previous attack was just to consume the chakra of the 3 people, but the real killer move was the trump card that Danzo had been hiding in the dark. Wood style? Uchiha was horrified. With his knowledge, he could naturally recognize the origin of this ninjutsu. The two instinctively used ninjutsu to try to block the huge hand that fell from the sky, but their ninjutsu failed to leave any trace on the giant hand. At this time, Kuragami Uchiha slowly said, stand behind me. In an instant, the 3 Tomoe in Kuragami Uchiha's eyes spun rapidly and turned into a Mangekyō Sharingan. Dark chakra poured out from his eyes, covering the 3 people, and turned into a huge black Susanoo adorned with glowing blue inscriptions. Kuragami Uchiha's visual jutsu and lightning chakra gathered in the hands of the Susanoo, turning into a dark blue sword. With just one strike, the huge wooden palm that fell from the sky was cut into 2. Elder Danzo, have you had enough? Kuragami Uchiha said coldly, "Do you know why I didn't use the ultimate power of our Uchiha clan from the beginning? Because I planned to bury all of you here." As Kuragami Uchiha was speaking, the sky above his head had already darkened. The water vapor evaporated by the collision between the fire style and water style formed large dark clouds in the air. Huge amounts of chakra were constantly compressed in them. When everyone present looked up, there was only horror on their faces. Although there was basically no such thing as humanity among the root ninjas, this feeling of powerlessness in the face of the might of heaven is the instinct of every living being. Lightning style, Kirin. Kuragami Uchiha called out the name of the jutsu softly, and then, except for the three people in the center of the battlefield, a flash of lightning flashed under everyone's feet. It was so faint that even ordinary people would barely feel a tingle. But in that moment, those tiny sparks became their death sentence. A massive azure beast of lightning descended from the heavens. Facing this mighty attack, the root ninjas had nowhere to escape. Only layer upon layer of wooden walls rose up in a corner and struggled to block the incoming lightning with their numbers. After a few minutes, the lightning completely subsided, heavy rain fell, and the smell of blood that had previously filled the air was swept away. In the corner where the wooden wall had risen before, the last layer of the wooden wall collapsed with a loud bang, revealing two figures. A masked man fell to the ground with his hands still in a seal position, while the other man was leaning on a crutch with one hand and the other hand wrapped in bandages hanging limply in front of him. "I found you, Elder Danzo." Kuragami Uchiha, inside the Susanoo, smiled brilliantly. Chapter 5, Danzo's death. It seems I have no choice but to step in. His subordinates had been completely wiped out, yet the man known as the Darkness of the Shinobi remained composed. He tossed aside his cane and slowly unwrapped the bandages around his arm, revealing a terrifying right arm. Sharingan? Uchiha and Saito Uchiha, who were protected by Susanoo, glared at Danzo angrily. "How dare you defile the remains of our clan's ancestors? The Uchiha clan has always been inherently evil. The power of the Sharingan should only be used to protect Hidden Leaf Village in my hands," Danzo declared while looking at the three inside the Susanoo. "Kuragami Uchiha, today, I will personally put an end to your evil deeds." With that, Danzo charged at Kuragami Uchiha, forming hand seals as he moved. Wind style, vacuum bullets. The wind chakra gathered in Danzo's mouth before being shot out like bullets toward Kuragami Uchiha's Susanoo. Meanwhile, Danzo weaved through the barrage of vacuum bullets, with kunai in hand, aiming for Kuragami Uchiha. However, the Susanoo, towering above, effortlessly destroyed the vacuum bullets with a single swing, and Danzo himself was cut in half in the same strike. As Susanoo slowly dissipated, Kuragami Uchiha and his two companions emerged from within. "Is it over?" Uchiha muttered in disbelief. "Yes, it's over." Kuragami Uchiha nodded and approached Danzo's severed corpse. Yet, in the next moment, Danzo's body vanished before their eyes. A sharp whistling sound came from behind Kuragami Uchiha. "Kuragami Uchiha, your eyes belong to me." Danzo's voice carried an unmistakable excitement. If he could kill Kuragami Uchiha, he could obtain the pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan that belonged to Kuragami and Shizui, which would bring him one step closer to becoming Hokage. But just as his kunai was about to pierce Kuragami Uchiha's back, Danzo suddenly found himself frozen in place and his body slowly fading away. What is this?" Danzo stared in disbelief as his right arm and kunai disintegrated into nothingness. "Your trump card is Izanagi, isn't it?" Kuragami Uchiha finally turned his head, his left eye's Mangekyō Sharingan spinning rapidly. "A Genjutsu that creates illusions in reality. Unfortunately for you, my eye completely counters it. My left eye, Mukomai, erases all illusions in its gaze." As Kuragami finished speaking, Danzo's form completely disappeared into thin air, while the severed corpse reappeared in its original place. With the suppression of chakra gone, the Hashirama cells in Danzo's body began to run rampant. Kuragami Uchiha quickly set up a sealing jutsu to contain the rogue cells before lifting Danzo's remains. "Let's go. We're returning to the village," Kuragami said. "Returning to the village?" Saito Uchiha was taken aback. "Yes, to demand an explanation," Kuragami replied, glancing at a wood-style user barely clinging to life nearby. "Bring him, too." Inside the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi lit his pipe for the 27th time that day. For some reason, a deep unease had been looming over him since morning. "Hokage-sama, Kuragami Uchiha has returned to the village and has a conflict at the gate." An Anbu member burst into the office. Sarutobi's heart sank. If Kuragami had returned, would that mean Danzo had failed? Why would there be a conflict if he was simply returning after completing a mission? Sarutobi pressed in his hands. The Anbu swallowed hard. He's carrying Danzo-sama's corpse. And Danzo's body has multiple Sharingan embedded in it. What? Sarutobi was horrified. He had already prepared for the possibility of Danzo failing, even suspecting that Danzo might fall under Koto Umatsukami. But he never expected Danzo to outright die at Kuragami Uchiha's hands. Hokage-sama, the two village advisors have been informed and are on their way to the village gates. The Anbu continued. Additionally, the Uchiha clan has also received word and is currently gathering. Hearing this, Sarutobi could no longer sit still and hurried out. By dusk, tension at Hidden Leaf Village's gates was at its peak. Dozens of jonin in flak jackets had surrounded Kuragami Uchiha and Inuka Uchiha, who carried the unconscious Yamato. But no one dared make the first move. In the center, Kuragami stood calmly, casually tossing Danzo's half-corpse to the ground like trash. How dare you? You killed an elder from the village. Is the Uchiha clan planning a rebellion? A voice filled with anger sounded, making the surrounding ninjas part, allowing Hamura Midokado and Koharu Uchiha, Hidden Leaf Village's two senior advisors, to step forward. Their faces darkened at the sight of their former comrade's mutilated body. Seize these rogue ninjas at once. I'd like to see who dares. At that moment, Uchiha ninjas began arriving behind Kuragami Uchiha. Under the crimson glow of the setting sun, their Sharingan gleamed ominously. At the forefront stood the clan's radical elders, dragging along their reluctant clan head, Fugaku Uchiha. When Saito Uchiha delivered the news, the Uchiha clan mobilized with unprecedented speed. Even the pacifists within the clan were enraged at the sight of Danzo's Sharingan-infested arm. Shishui, still recovering from his eye transplant, had also rushed to the scene. Itachi had initially tried to stop him, but at this point, the Uchiha clan was beyond reasoning. Their pleas fell on deaf ears, and conflict nearly erupted within the clan itself before they all arrived at the village gates. Is the Uchiha clan rebattling? Hamura Midokado shouted. Defiling the remains of our people, if rebellion is what it takes to bring justice, then so be it. An Uchiha elder retorted without backing down. Enough. All of you, stop. Just as both sides were about to clash, a firm and commanding voice cut through the tension. A small yet imposing figure stepped into the center, wearing the Hokage's ceremonial robe, the words Third Hokage emblazoned across his back. In his presence, both sides momentarily hesitate and cease their actions. Chapter 6, There are bad guys within the Hokage's ranks. Hokage-sama, you finally arrived. Kuragami Uchiha, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Kuragami, what exactly happened? Hiruzen Sarutobi asked after glancing at the half-severed corpse of Danzo on the ground. This morning, we received a mission from the village, but we were ambushed on the way. Kuragami Uchiha said calmly. The three of us eliminated all the attackers, and among their corpses, we discovered the body of Danzo-sama. You're lying. There's no way Danzo would ambush you. Hamura Midokado roared in anger. No matter what you say, these are the facts. Kuragami remained composed. During our battle, he revealed the Sharingan embedded in his arm. We took him for a thief who had stolen the Kekkei Genkai of my clan and killed him, only to realize afterward that he was, in fact, Elder Danzo. Hiruzen, don't believe his nonsense. This is clearly the Uchiha clan trying to frame Danzo after killing him. Koharu Uchiha interjected. The Uchiha clan would never desecrate the bodies of their kin. A senior Uchiha elder behind Kuragami roared. And what we found wasn't just the Sharingan. Kuragami responded without any anger. He then began removing the Sharingan eyes from Danzo's arm one by one, undoing the sealing jutsu that had been placed on them. Without the suppression of the sealing jutsu, Hashirama cells immediately went out of control, consuming Danzo's remains and turning them into a twisted wooden stump. Is that wood style? Some of the older ninja present immediately recognized what had happened. At the same time, Kuragami signaled to Inuka, who then dropped Yamato onto the ground. During our battle, we also discovered this ninja capable of using wood style. I believe I don't need to explain what that implies. Kuragami said while his gaze locked onto Hiruzen Sarutobi. He actually dared to desecrate the first Hokage's remains. It was an elder from the Uchiha's pacifist faction who spoke out in outrage. This elder had always revered the first Hokage, so he could not accept such an act. The expressions of the ninja on the Hokage's side also showed signs of wavering. After all, Danzo's actions were akin to defiling their very beliefs. Hiruzen Sarutobi knew he could not remain silent any longer. Everyone, I will personally conduct a thorough investigation into all of this and ensure that justice is served. Please, give me some time. We can't trust them. Kuragami, lead us in rebellion. You've awakened Madara-sama's eyes. You can't lead the Uchiha clan to glory. The angered voices of radicals within the Uchiha clan called out. Shizue and Itachi Uchiha, who were among the crowd, panicked. But at this moment, the clan had already been swept up in hysteria. The two exchanged glances and simultaneously made a decision to stop this, even at the cost of their lives. However, before they could act, Kuragami Uchiha suddenly turned around and shouted, "Silence!" The Uchiha clan, who had been shouting about rebellion just moments before, were instantly stunned into silence. Several of the more radical elders looked at Kuragami in disbelief. At this moment, the three Tomoe Sharingan in Kuragami's eyes had transformed into the Mangekyō Sharingan. He then reprimanded them mercilessly. "What nonsense are you spouting? Hidden Leaf Village was founded by the first Hokage and Madara-sama together. We were born here, and we grew up here. This is our home. We drink from the same Naka River, we eat from the same rice fields, we are part of this village." Shizue and Itachi Uchiha were both taken aback by his words. Could it be that Kuragami had no intention of rebattling? Clan head, don't you agree? Kuragami turned his gaze toward the silent Fugaku Uchiha. Fugaku Uchiha stared deeply at Kuragami before stepping forward, bowing slightly toward Hiruzen Sarutobi. Kuragami is right. My clansmen were simply too agitated earlier. I apologize for the commotion. Some of the radical members of the Uchiha clan wanted to argue, but when they saw the Mangekyō Sharingan in Kuragami's eyes, they wisely chose to remain silent. I can understand. Hiruzen Sarutobi said, seizing the opportunity to defuse the situation. Even I would struggle to remain calm if I saw my clansmen's remains treated this way. Fugaku, have your people return home. Once the investigation is complete, I promise to give you all a satisfactory explanation. However, Hokage-sama, we do need an explanation right now. Kuragami suddenly spoke again. At the same time, he pulled out the mission scroll he had received that morning, stamped with the Hokage's official seal. Hokage-sama, did you issue this scroll? Kuragami asked with a smile. Kuragami, I never issued such a mission, and there is no record of it in the mission office. Hiruzen Sarutobi quickly responded, eager to sever ties with Danzō. So this was all Elder Danzō's doing? Kuragami pressed. Forgive me, Danzō, Hiruzen thought to himself. But no matter what, he had to cut ties. That's correct. Hiruzen said while looking at Kuragami. How despicable. Kuragami immediately showed an expression of righteous indignation. Hokage-sama dedicates himself tirelessly to the village, yet some people, for their own selfish desires, commit acts that harm the village. There are bad guys within the Hokage's ranks. As he spoke, Kuragami deliberately swept his gaze over Hamura Midokado and Koharu Utatane. Kuragami, I understand your anger. Rest assured, I will get to the bottom of this. Hiruzen Sarutobi reassured him, unwilling to argue after hearing Kuragami's declaration of loyalty. Hokage-sama, in light of these events, the Uchiha clan would like to assist you in maintaining order. Kuragami said while bowing slightly. Kuragami, I appreciate the offer. Hiruzen started to respond, but as he lifted his gaze, he saw the Mangekyō Sharingan slowly spinning in Kuragami's eyes. Hokage-sama, the Uchiha clan is willing to serve you. Kuragami repeated again. Sweat trickled down Hiruzen's forehead as he realized this was Kuragami's true goal all along. He recalled what Shizue had told him yesterday about the dangerous ability that Kuragami possessed. While it was true that controlling him directly would have little impact on Hidden Leaf Village's overall situation, it didn't mean he was willing to be manipulated himself. He had let Danzō act partly because he wanted him to step into this minefield for him. But at this moment, Hiruzen Sarutobi finally understood that Kuragami Uchiha was more formidable than any Uchiha he had ever dealt with. After letting out a long sigh, Hiruzen finally said, if that is your wish, then I leave this matter in your hands. At that moment, the Mangekyō Sharingan in Kuragami's eyes faded, and he bowed slightly to Hiruzen. As you command. Kuragami replied, then turned to look at his clan. Just as Hiruzen was preparing to leave, Kuragami's voice echoed once more, Uchiha clan, salute to the Hokage. Standing at the forefront, Kuragami swung his right hand up to his forehead and declared, loyalty. The entire Uchiha clan, including Fugaku Uchiha, followed his lead, raising their hands in salute, loyalty. Chapter 7, New Clan Head. After the incident at the village entrance was resolved, Kuragami Uchiha, having obtained what he wanted, returned to the clan grounds along with his fellow clansmen. On the way back, some of the more radical members of the clan wanted to say something, but upon seeing Kuragami Uchiha's back, they wisely chose to keep their mouths shut. Upon returning to the clan grounds, Kuragami Uchiha turned around and said, I know many of you have questions, so while everyone is here, let's hold a clan meeting. No one objected. The lights were lit in the clan's shrine, and when Kuragami Uchiha took his seat, he sat without hesitation in the first position beneath Fugaku Uchiha. Seeing this, The clan elders exchanged glances but ultimately accepted it. In the Uchiha clan, strength determined status, and with Kuragami Uchiha having awakened the Mangekyō Sharingan, they would support him even if he wished to become the clan head. As for Fugaku Uchiha, who had remained silent the entire way back, he simply glanced at Kuragami before continuing to stay silent. All the Chunin and above-ranked ninjas in the clan are present, correct? Kuragami Uchiha asked after everyone had taken their seats. We're all here. Uchiha was the first to respond. Good, then, the first matter is that I want to become the head of the Uchiha clan. Who is in favor? Who is against it? Kuragami Uchiha dropped a bombshell right from the start. Rather than getting caught up in political games with the Hokage's faction, he chose the most direct and forceful approach within the clan. His words threw the assembled clan members into chaos. In the crowd, Shizue and Itachi Uchiha looked at him in shock. At this moment, a more moderate elder carefully organized his words before speaking. Kuragami, with your newly awakened Mangekyō Sharingan, there's no question that you have the qualifications to become the clan head. However, you've rarely participated in clan meetings over the years and are not familiar with the clan's internal affairs. Taking over so hastily seems too reckless. That's right, Kuragami. You should first familiarize yourself with the clan's situation and wait a year or two before assuming leadership. A radical elder added. After hearing Kuragami's speech at the village entrance, it seemed he wasn't entirely on their side. Hey! Kuragami Uchiha sneered. I know the clan's situation very well, and that is precisely why I haven't bothered attending these meetings. Tell me, after all these years of clan meetings, have you reached any conclusions? He pressed both hands against the table and scanned each elder seated before him. Have you decided on rebellion? Or have you chosen to submit to the village? If any of you had came to a decision, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Endless arguments will only drag our clan into chaos and ruin. What the Uchiha need is not endless debates but a leader who can guide us out of this crisis. The clan only needs one voice. His words were like a clap of thunder. The clan members looked at one another before falling into silence. I support Kuragami as the new clan head. Uchiha was the first to stand and break the silence. After witnessing how Kuragami single-handedly slaughtered nearly 100 root ninjas with ease, he became a devout follower. Kuragami has the Mangekyō Sharingan. I support him as well. Saido Uchiha also voiced his support. Soon, following their lead, many of the younger and stronger members of the clan began voicing their approval for Kuragami to become the new leader. Enough. Fugaku Uchiha suddenly spoke, silencing the room. He then turned to Kuragami Uchiha and said, Kuragami, from your words, it seems you already have a plan. If I'm standing here, it means I have a well-prepared plan. With your keen insight, clan head Fugaku, you should be able to see the future of our clan. Kuragami said while locking eyes with him. Although Kuragami's words were subtle, Fugaku understood the implication. Kuragami had likely guessed that he also possessed the Mangekyō Sharingan. If it were just one person possessing the Mangekyō Sharingan, the clan might still remain composed. However, if he revealed his own Mangekyō Sharingan as well, it would push the entire Uchiha clan past the point of no return, leaving them no choice but to rebel. Fugaku gazed at Kuragami meaningfully for a long time before finally speaking. Very well. The current crisis the clan faces is partly my responsibility as head. Kuragami, I will entrust the clan to you. Clan head. Father. Itachi Uchiha and Shizue were visibly alarmed. Unlike the other members of the clan, they knew full well how extreme Kuragami's ideals were. Although his speech at the village entrance seemed to align with the village's perspective, Shizue still vividly remembered his radical statements from the previous night. Do not disappoint the clan, Kuragami. Ignoring the protests from Itachi and Shizue, Fugaku gently patted Kuragami's shoulder and stepped aside. Before heading to the village entrance, Fugaku had already used his Mangekyō Sharingan, which could glimpse fragmented visions of the future. Kuragami's presence had caused an unforeseen shift in fate, though the future was still unclear. At least there was now some hope compared to the previous path, which offered none at all. For that reason, Fugaku had no attachment to his position as clan head. It is as I wished. Kuragami stepped into Fugaku's seat but did not sit down immediately. Instead, he looked at the gathered Uchiha elites and spoke in a calm yet commanding tone. The Uchiha clan has always been a proud and noble lineage. We are merely facing a temporary crisis, but I will lead us to restore our former glory. And that glory, I will not claim for myself alone. Follow the clan head's command. Loyalty. Uchiha, already a devoted follower of Kuragami, saluted in the same manner as Kuragami had done at the village entrance. With a leader stepping forward, the younger Uchiha members, except for Shizue and Itachi, stood up and saluted. Loyalty. Seeing this, Even the hesitant elders could only remain silent. Satisfied, Kuragami Uchiha looked over at the gathered clan members. The Uchiha clan might lack strategic minds, but once they had a central figure to rally behind, their loyalty was unquestionable. Now, I will announce two things, Kuragami said, signaling for everyone to quiet down. Chapter 8, Kuragami Uchiha's plan first. From now on, I don't want to hear any talk of rebellion within the clan. Kuragami Uchiha solemnly announced. Huh? The young Uchiha members, who had been burning with passion moments ago, were suddenly stunned. Meanwhile, Shizue and Itachi Uchiha breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Kuragami Uchiha still had reason and understood that the clan could not rebel. But in the next moment, the two of them felt their hearts sink again. This village was originally founded by Madara-sama and the first Hokage together. In a way, our Uchiha clan should rightfully be one of its rulers. What we need to do is simply reclaim the power that belongs to us. That's right. Our Uchiha clan should always have had a share in the rule of this village. Saito Uchiha exclaimed with fervor. Second, the Hidden Leaf Village military police force is understaffed. Starting tomorrow, we will begin recruiting civilian ninjas. Within a week, I want to see the Hidden Leaf Village military police force's manpower doubled. The salaries of these civilian ninjas should at least match the village's D-rank mission standards. Also, all jutsus within the clan, except those related to the Sharingan, as well as the spoils of war accumulated over the years, should be made available as rewards for outstanding contributions. Kuragami Uchiha then dropped his second bombshell. This time, the uproar was even greater. Even Shizue and Itachi Uchiha were confused about Kuragami's true intentions. If his previous words were just about symbolism, this decision was now a tangible sacrifice of the clan's resources. Silence. Kuragami Uchiha stepped forward and commanded as the commotion reached its peak. Most of you here work in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. I'm sure you've all encountered this situation. No matter how fairly we enforce the law, there are always villagers who resent us. The Hidden Leaf Village military police force may seem prestigious, but it has built an invisible wall between us and the villagers. This is the trap that the sinister Senju elders set for us from the very beginning. If we want to reclaim our power, the first step is to bridge the gap between us and the villagers. The first Hokage once said something very true. It is not becoming Hokage that earns you the people's recognition, but only by earning the people's recognition can one become Hokage. Our Uchiha clan has been distant from the villagers for too long. What we need to do now is actively embrace them. Kuragami Uchiha's words were full of conviction and passion. Even Shizue began to wonder if he had misunderstood Kuragami. Isn't this exactly what he himself had always wanted? Recruiting civilian ninjas is understandable, but sharing our jutsu seems like too great a sacrifice. A clan elder questioned. The foundation of our clan is our Kekkei Genkai. These jutsus, if left to gather dust in our archives, serve no purpose. But if they become a bridge connecting us with the village, they will gain true value. Kuragami replied. But Kuragami, have you considered this? Recruiting so many civilian ninjas at once and ensuring their pay meets the standard of D-rank missions will drain the clan's finances quickly. Ever since that incident 6 years ago, our clan has already been pushed out of the village center. Fugaku Uchiha reminded him. Fugaku-sama, there's no need to worry about that. I will find a way to secure funding for the clan. Kuragami Uchiha said with a calm smile. As long as you have a plan. Then, according to clan tradition, the head of the clan always serves as the captain of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. No. Before Fugaku could finish, Kuragami interrupted with a chuckle. Fugaku-sama, please continue to serve as the captain of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. I have more important matters to attend to. More important matters? Fugaku frowned slightly. Of course, I have to carry out the mission entrusted to me by the third Hokage. Kuragami smirked. Speaking of which, since you've taken on the investigation of Danzo and Root, shouldn't we begin the investigation immediately? A clan elder asked. How could we start investigating right away? Kuragami chuckled knowingly. We have to give them some time first. Some time. To destroy evidence. Saito, Inika, starting tomorrow, the two of you will assist me in investigating the Root. Kuragami assigned tasks to the two Uchiha who had been following him throughout the day. Understood. Meanwhile, at the Root headquarters, Yamanaka and Troublesome were overseeing their subordinates as they tirelessly destroyed Root's confidential documents. Since the previous mission had been to eliminate Uchiha members, Yamanaka, who was at a natural disadvantage against the Uchiha, had been left behind at the base. Similarly, Troublesome had been assigned to Root because of his unique skills, but years ago, during the Third Shinobi War, he had been sent by Danzo to assassinate Kuragami Uchiha. However, his insects lost their sense of direction when exposed to Kuragami's lightning-style, electromagnetic field, and he barely escaped with his life. Thus, Danzō had left the two of them behind this time. But what they received was the shocking news of Danzō's death. Having been brainwashed by Danzō for years, the remaining root ninjas functioned like machines, mechanically gathering classified documents and incinerating them with fire-style jutsu. By the time dawn broke, nearly all traces had been erased. Just as they were about to finish, they received word that Kuragami Uchiha was approaching Root's base with his men. The two exchanged glances, then looked at the few remaining documents that hadn't yet been destroyed. After a moment of silent agreement, they headed toward the base entrance. Kuragami Uchiha, accompanied by Saito and Inuka, walked leisurely toward the Root headquarters. "This old bastard's lair is really hidden in some remote place," Saito Uchiha muttered. Kuragami chuckled at the comment, then suddenly raised an eyebrow. "Speaking of the devil, here comes his lackeys." As soon as he finished speaking, blue lightning flashed around him. In the next instant, various insects materialized around them, only to drop lifelessly to the ground upon contact with the electrical field. The plants beneath their feet withered upon exposure to the insects. Seeing this, Saito and Inuka immediately drew their kunai and assumed battle stances. "An Iburim ninja. Didn't the previous encounter teach you a lesson? Your insects are useless against me," Kuragami said loudly. But the other party's answer came in the form of a barrage of shuriken. However, just before they reached him, the shuriken suddenly froze in midair as if suspended by an invisible force. With a poof, one of the shurikens burst into smoke, revealing Tsunaburim lunging forward and a kunai aimed straight at Kuragami's throat. Chapter 9, Kakashi Hotake. After blocking the attack with his blade, Kuragami Uchiha glanced at the kunai in Tsunaburim's hand and chuckled, "A specially made glass kunai? Too bad, it's useless." The next second, the shuriken hovering around Kuragami Uchiha shot toward the exposed Tsunaburim. Tsunaburim hurriedly used an insect substitution jutsu to escape, but as soon as he landed, Kuragami Uchiha's next strike was already upon him. With his body crackling with lightning, Kuragami moved at an unbelievable speed. Each slash was deadly, leaving Trun overwhelmed. As someone skilled at using insects, close combat was never his forte, forcing him to rely on repeated insect substitution jutsu to escape Kuragami's relentless attacks. However, each substitution meant sacrificing a batch of his carefully nurtured insects to Kuragami's lightning. Within minutes, Trun had barely avoided death multiple times. Just as Kuragami was about to finish him off, his vision suddenly went black. "Using this jutsu against Uchiha who has awakened the Mangekyō Sharingan? You're asking for death." In the mental world, Kuragami's Mangekyō Sharingan flared. Yamanaka, who had been hiding in the shadows attempting a sneak attack with the mind-body switch jutsu, groaned, coughed up blood, and collapsed. "Capture him alive," Kuragami ordered casually while forcing Trun into another insect substitution jutsu with a single strike. He glanced at Inuka Uchiha and Saito Uchiha, who stood nearby and instructed, "You two, take care of it. Now that we have a better prisoner, let's end this," Kuragami said with a smirk while stabbing his blade into Trun's back. Lightning surged violently, and within moments, all that remained was a charred corpse. On the side, Inuka Uchiha and Saito Uchiha easily captured Yamanaka, who had lost all resistance due to the backlash of his clan's hidden jutsu. "Saito, take this one back to the clan's interrogation room. Make sure he stays alive," Kuragami commanded after finishing off Trun. "Inuka, report to the Hokage's office and say that during our investigation, we encountered violent resistance from the remnants of the Root, forcing us to take emergency measures. The perpetrators have been eliminated." "Understood." The two nodded and quickly departed in opposite directions to carry out Kuragami's orders. Meanwhile, Kuragami headed alone toward the underground Root base. Upon entering, the remaining Root members launched suicidal attacks in a desperate attempt to stop him. However, Kuragami needed only a single strike each time to deal with them. He cut his way through the base, from its entrance to its core, leaving dozens of corpses behind in just 10 minutes. Inside Danzo's office, the first thing Kuragami saw was a pile of ashes. Danzo's secret records had already been burned to nothing. Seeing this, he smiled lightly, pulled out a sealing scroll, and retrieved a stack of documents. "Root is surprisingly efficient. I thought I'd have to clean up after them," he muttered, tossing the documents into the air and incinerating them with a great fireball jutsu. Once about half of the documents had burned, Kuragami leisurely formed hand seals. Water-style, raging waves. Mist emerged around him, condensed into droplets, and rained down onto the burning papers. Wisps of smoke rose as the flames were extinguished. Kuragami then picked up the partially burned documents one by one. After a while, Inuka Uchiha returned with a squad of Anbu sent by the third Hokage. The squad's leader wore an Anbu mask, but his silver hair immediately gave away his identity: Kakashi Hatake, the famed copy ninja of Hidden Leaf Village. As Kakashi stepped into the root base and saw the corpses littering the ground, he frowned. It wasn't out of sympathy but rather because these root members, being Hidden Leaf Village shinobi, might have had a chance to reform after Danzo's death. Yet, Kuragami had killed them all. "Kakashi-senpai, so it's you." Kuragami greeted with a smile, unsurprised that the third Hokage hadn't come in person. Under the looming threat of Kotoa Mitsukami, the so-called professor likely preferred to avoid facing him directly. Kakashi, however, remained silent behind his mask. Unbothered, Kuragami continued, "When I arrived, these root remnants were already destroying the evidence. Luckily, I was just in time to save some of it." After stepping closer to Kakashi, Kuragami lowered his voice. "I found something interesting in these files. I think you'll want to see it." He then pulled out a half-burned document and held it up for Kakashi to see. The names on it made Kakashi's pupils contract: Kakashi Hatake, Kishida Keisuke, Aramake, and a ninja left with only the surname Toyama, but Kakashi immediately completed this name, Toyama Ryota. These were the people involved in the mission that had changed his father's life. And next to each name, there was an ominous word written: silenced. "Well then, since you're here, I'll leave the cleanup to you." Kuragami stored away the document, patted Kakashi on the shoulder, and sighed, "Such a pity. They were all Hidden Leaf Village shinobi, yet Danzo brainwashed them like this. I never wanted to kill them." With that, he turned to leave, signaling Inuka to follow. "Wait." Kakashi suddenly called out as Kuragami reached the office door. "Something wrong, Kakashi-senpai?" Kuragami asked, his face still wearing a gentle smile. "I have to go sort through the remaining evidence and interrogate the captured root members." "Nothing." Kakashi hesitated for a moment but ultimately suppressed the urge to ask Kuragami for more details. "All right then, I'll be off. Give my regards to Hokage-sama." Kuragami waved as he walked away, then paused as if recalling something. Turning back, he added, "Oh, right, Kakashi-senpai. If you have time, drop by the Uchiha district. Granny Mori hasn't been feeling well lately, she's been asking about you." Chapter 10, The World Remains the Same. Kuragami Uchiha left the root base without looking back. Meanwhile, Kakashi was shaken upon hearing the name that Kuragami Uchiha had mentioned. Obito's grandmother. That's right. All these years, out of guilt, I never once went to visit her. I really am a failure, Captain. A member of the Anbu stepped forward to remind him when he saw Kakashi frozen in place. "I'm fine." Kakashi waved his hand after snapping out of his thoughts. "Clean up this place, then report back to Hokage-sama." After returning to the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force headquarters in the Uchiha clan district, Kuragami Uchiha headed straight for the interrogation room. The wood-style user they captured yesterday had already been interrogated for an entire day. Now, with Yamanaka brought in as well, both of them were securely restrained and had their chakra sealed. However, the interrogation process was not going smoothly. After all, they were not just any ordinary ninja, they were from the root. The interrogation rooms, designed for dealing with petty criminals in the village, were proving inadequate. Clan head. As Kuragami Uchiha entered the room, the Uchiha interrogators temporarily halted their work and greeted him respectfully. "How's it going?" Kuragami asked. Their mouths are tight, especially the one from yesterday. "We've been working on him all night, but he refuses to say anything. We were just about to call a Jonin, who has a 3-Tomoe Sharingan from the clan, to assist us." The lead interrogator was just a regular Uchiha Chunin, only possessing a 1-Tomoe Sharingan. Normally, this was more than enough for handling village criminals, but when dealing with experienced ninjas, it was far from sufficient. "No need for that. I'll handle it myself," Kuragami Uchiha said as he walked into the interrogation room and stopped in front of Yamanaka. Yamanaka, who was bound to the chair, had clearly taken a severe beating in the short time he had been here. Seeing Kuragami approaching, his face was filled with hatred, and his eyes were burning with an intense desire for revenge. Kuragami Uchiha smiled slightly and simply stared at this unfortunate soul, completely brainwashed by Danzo. Then, with a wave of his hand, the interrogators stepped forward and resumed their brutal assault. Even Kuragami shook his head at the sight. There was clearly some personal grudge involved in this beating. Of course, it was understandable. The root had frequently clashed with the Uchiha, and now that they had a root ninja in their hands, the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force members weren't about to show any mercy. Once the beating was done, Kuragami Uchiha slowly stood up and approached Yamanaka. I won't say anything." Yamanaka panted heavily while staring at Kuragami Uchiha with unyielding defiance. The midday sunlight streamed in through the window, making it difficult for Yamanaka to keep his eyes open, so Kuragami's face appeared somewhat blurry in his vision. I took a little tour of your base. It was quite a frightening place. Kuragami Uchiha said softly. Your members wanted to help Danzō become Hokage? Wanted to eliminate the Uchiha. As he spoke, he reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of Yamanaka's mouth. Go take a look outside. Nothing has changed. The village is still the same as before. Yamanaka's vision gradually adjusted to the light, and Kuragami Uchiha's face became clearer, but his words sent a chill down his spine. Honestly, whether you confess or not doesn't really matter. Kuragami Uchiha continued. I never planned to get any useful information from you in the first place. Then, he turned to the interrogators. Keep a close watch on him. Just make sure he doesn't die. Ida. Yes. Ida Uchiha immediately stepped forward and saluted. Gather the second squad and come with me. Kuragami Uchiha ordered. Understood. Ida nodded. Clan head, where are we going? We're going to arrest the accomplices of Danzō Shimura from the Shimura clan. Kuragami Uchiha stated. Directly arrest them? Ida asked, surprised but also visibly excited. The Shimura clan had never gotten along well with the Uchiha. Arrest? No. Kuragami Uchiha smiled. Danzō not only attacked fellow Hidden Leaf village ninja but also desecrated the remains of the first Hokage. These are already undeniable facts. And, as it happens, I found some evidence in the root base that links the Shimura clan to his dealings. As he spoke, Kuragami Uchiha retrieved a half-burned ledger from a sealing scroll. So, we're simply inviting them back for questioning. Yamanaka, still bound to the interrogation chair, widened his eyes in shock. He was sure that all of Root's records had been destroyed. Kuragami Uchiha glanced at him at just the right moment, his subtle smile sending a wave of dread. Yamanaka began to struggle violently. He wanted to shout, but before he could, Uchiha guard landed a heavy punch on him and gagged his mouth. All he could do was watch helplessly as Kuragami Uchiha and his team walked away. Soon, the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's second squad had gathered. Some of them had initially grumbled about being called in during their break, but once they heard they were going after the Shimura clan, the Uchiha ninjas immediately became energized. Clan head, Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force second squad assembled. Outside the station, the squad leader, Uchiha, reported loudly. Kuragami Uchiha nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, Uchiha shouted, "Salute to the clan head." With a crisp, unified motion, the squad members snapped to attention and saluted. Loyalty. They shouted in unison. Kuragami Uchiha couldn't help but chuckle. Ever since he had randomly saluted Hyuga and Sarutobi yesterday, this practice had somehow caught on within the clan. Loyalty. Kuragami Uchiha returned the salute and then led the squad toward the Shimura clan's district. Such a large movement naturally did not go unnoticed. At that moment, in the Hokage's office, Hyuga and Sarutobi was rubbing his temples in frustration. He had originally planned to take control of the remnants of the route, but early this morning, he received word that Kuragami Uchiha had completely wiped them out. At the same time, Itachi Uchiha, who had reported for duty in the Anbu, truthfully relayed everything that had transpired at the Uchiha clan meeting the previous night. Upon learning that Kuragami Uchiha had become the clan head, Hyuga and Sarutobi let out a long sigh. The only good news is that Kuragami managed to suppress the idea of an outright rebellion within the Uchiha. He muttered. And recruiting a civilian ninja into the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, regardless of his motives, is actually a good thing. Hyuga and Sarutobi could only console himself with that thought. Chapter 11, Competent while on duty Hokage-sama, Kuragami is leading a squad of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force toward the Shimura clan's territory. What? Hyuga and Sarutobi's eyelid twitches, he couldn't immediately figure out what Kuragami Uchiha was planning. Hokage-sama, allow me to go. I'll try to stop him. At that moment, Itachi Uchiha, who was on duty today, stepped out from the shadows, knelt on one knee, and requested permission. Sarutobi stared at Itachi for a long time before sighing. I'm counting on you, Itachi. The village cannot afford internal strife anymore. After receiving the orders, Itachi swiftly moved through Hidden Leaf Village's buildings and quickly arrived at the outskirts of the Shimura clan's territory. At the same time, Kuragami Uchiha and his group, who had been moving at a more leisurely pace, had also just arrived. The entire Shimura clan's territory was draped in white mourning cloth, and somber funeral music played in the distance. At this time, standing before Itachi was Kuragami, accompanied by the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force. Although Itachi wore a mask, his stature was unmistakable. Every ninja in the village knew who the only underage member of the Anbu was. Itachi, We are here to summon certain members of the Shimura clan for questioning at the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. Were you sent by Hokage-sama to assist us? Kuragami asked. Realizing his identity had been exposed, Itachi no longer concealed himself and removed his mask. Kuragami, go back. The village cannot afford more internal conflict. So, you're here to stop me? Kuragami's gaze turned cold. Is that your decision or Hokage-sama? By moving slowly through the village with such a large group, Kuragami had deliberately drawn attention. Given the location of the Shimura clan's territory in a busy district, a crowd of curious villagers had already gathered to watch. Danzo Shimura desecrated the first Hokage's remains and attacked a fellow Hidden Leaf village ninja. This has been proven beyond doubt. The Shimura clan's interest is deeply tied to him. We are merely bringing them in for questioning, yet you stand in our way. What is your true intention? Kuragami's voice rang out, ensuring the surrounding villagers could hear. Itachi felt uneasy under the gazes of the crowds. Perform your duty properly. Kuragami interrupted him sharply. If this is truly Hokage-sama's order, I will leave immediately. Itachi looked around at the crowd, their necks craning for gossip. Could he say this was truly Hokage's will? The events at the village gate yesterday had spread overnight to every corner of Hidden Leaf Village. Clan head. Under the weight of the public's stares, Itachi lowered his head. Kuragami, unimpeded, led his team past him. Inside the Shimura clan's estate, the current clan head, Hiroshi Shimura, stood at the entrance with a group of clan members, blocking their path. I'm sorry, but the Shimura clan is not receiving visitors at the moment. Hiroshi, dressed in a black kimono, said coldly. It seems we came at an inconvenient time. Kuragami nodded. It looks like the Shimura clan is holding a funeral? You Uchihas have the audacity to show up here. A young, furious Shimura clan member suddenly lunged at Kuragami. The Hidden Leaf Village military police force members behind Kuragami were about to act, but Kuragami raised a hand to stop them. The enraged Shimura clan member was quickly restrained by his fellow clansmen. My apologies. The younger members of my clan lack discipline. Hiroshi said softly while looking at Kuragami. I understand. Kuragami chuckled. However, I am not here as a guest today. His smile faded as he spoke again. Shimura clan head, I need you to hand over Retsudo Shimura, Arashi Shimura, and Yuzuki Shimura to us. They are needed for questioning. The Hidden Leaf Village military police force members, already suppressing their anger, stepped forward. The Shimura clan members also readied themselves for conflict. This is not proper protocol. Hiroshi muttered. It's just questioning. Kuragami replied. The financial records recovered from the Root's base show deep ties between the Shimura clan and Root. Personally, I believe in your innocence, clan head Hiroshi. As he spoke, he retrieved a partially burned ledger from a ceiling scroll. Clan head, what more is there to say? The Uchiha are treacherous wolves. Elder Danzo was killed by them, we must avenge him. The restrained Shimura clan member shouted. So the Shimura clan truly colluded with Danzo and now intends to betray the village? Kuragami's expression turned icy, and his Sharingan turned into Mangekyō form. Hiroshi wanted to say something, but when he saw the swirling Mangekyō in Kuragami's eyes, he swallowed his anger. He had personally witnessed the legendary battle between Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. He knew the terrifying power of the Mangekyō Sharingan. If Kuragami unleashed his full strength inside the Shimura clan territory, the consequences would be catastrophic. Not a single clan member would escape unscathed. Moreover, Kuragami had come wielding the banner of justice. If a fight broke out, the Shimura clan would be unable to clear their name. Enough. I will allow them to go with you. Hiroshi said while suppressing his fury. Wouldn't it be over if you cooperated so early? Kuragami smirked and waved his hand for his team to take the suspects. Clan head. The younger Shimura members were outraged. They were used to wielding power in the village and could not accept this humiliation. Do not make things difficult for me. Kuragami whispered in Hiroshi's ear. Hiroshi clenched his jaw but ultimately held back, motioning for his people to stand down. The arrests did not take long. The individuals Kuragami named were present, and once they were handcuffed, Uchiha reported back. Clan head, thank you for your cooperation. Kuragami said, now more relaxed. However, I must advise you that holding a funeral for a traitor at a time like this is rather inappropriate, don't you think so? Chapter 12, the Yamanaka clan. This is none of the Uchiha clan's concern. Hiroshi Shimura said through gritted teeth. With that, Kuragami Uchiha said no more. He led his men, along with the 3 captured elders of the Shimura clan, and retraced their path back. The 3 captives were all high-ranking members of the Shimura clan, otherwise, they wouldn't have been in charge of coordinating with Danzo. However, under Kuragami Uchiha's deliberate arrangement, The escort team made sure to march the prisoners straight through the busiest commercial district of Hidden Leaf Village. Soon, news of the Uchiha clan arresting members of the Shimura clan spread through the village like wildfire. Upon returning to the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force headquarters, Kuragami Uchiha immediately ordered the 3 captives to be sent for interrogation. The moment it was known that members of the Shimura clan were being questioned, many in the Uchiha clan were eager to participate. It was clear that the coming night would be anything but easy for those 3. That said, Kuragami Uchiha didn't expect them to confess anything. The Shimura clan, especially those deeply tied to Danzō, were a group of diehards. Even if they were threatened, they would never betray Danzō. But Kuragami Uchiha wasn't after their secrets. He merely needed to set an example. The warning had been delivered. Now, it was time to collect something of real value from the monkeys he intended to warn. Kuragami remained in his office until late at night before changing into fresh clothes and heading out into the village alone. By then, the once bustling commercial district had started to quiet down. Shop owners were closing for the night. At the entrance of the Yamanaka flowers shop, a small blonde girl was huffing and puffing as she carried flowers back inside. Despite her young age and baby fat cheeks, it was obvious she would grow into a beautiful woman. Kuragami Uchiha approached the shop, and the little girl noticed him. She turned and said sweetly, "Big brother, we're already closed. Looks like I came too late." Kuragami Uchiha said with a smile. "But, would the little shop owner make an exception? I'd like to buy some flowers to honor my fallen clan members." The little girl was clearly a fan of handsome faces. The moment she got a good look at Kuragami, her eyes sparkled with admiration. "Of course. If it's for honoring your clan, would cornflowers be alright? I'll get some fresh ones from the fridge." Yamanaka chirped as she ran inside. "I'll be counting on you then," Kuragami said with a smile. Just then, a tall man slowly stepped out from inside the shop. Go upstairs. I'll handle this customer," Yamanaka said as he walked over. Glanced at Kuragami, then back at her father. With a reluctant pout, she put down the flowers she was carrying and headed upstairs. "Clan head Kuragami, visiting our humble flower shop late at night, is it just to buy some flowers?" Inoichi asked after making sure his daughter was gone. "Of course," Kuragami replied. "You see, last night, we reclaimed a few Sharingan that had been taken by Danzō. Although it's difficult to trace which fallen clan members they originally belonged to, we still need to hold a proper funeral for them. My condolences," Inoichi said as he carefully wrapped a few bundles of cornflowers and handed them to Kuragami. "Consider these flowers a tribute from the Yamanaka clan to the spirits of the Uchiha. I appreciate your generosity, clan head Inoichi," Kuragami said with a smile as he accepted the flowers. He then lowered his head, inhaling the fragrance of the flowers before casually remarking, "That little girl just now, is she your daughter? She's adorable. She's in the same class as Elder Fugaku's second son, isn't she? I've heard she loves clinging to our young Sasuke." Inoichi's eyes narrowed slightly, but he kept his expression neutral. "They're just children playing around." "I wouldn't say that." Kuragami chuckled. "Childhood sweethearts, what a beautiful term. How about we arrange a marriage between our clans? What do you think, clan head Inoichi? The children are too young. Let's discuss this when they're older." Inoichi rejected the proposal without hesitation. Kuragami wasn't surprised. The Yamanaka Nara Akimaki trio had always been loyal to the Hokage's faction. Naturally, they wouldn't want to get involved with the Uchiha. "Fair enough." Kuragami nodded. "You've been the Yamanaka clan head for quite some years now, haven't you? Under your leadership, the Yamanaka have truly flourished. I should learn from you how to lead a clan properly. It's merely the trust of my clan members," Inoichi responded. "You must be quite well respected among your people," Kuragami said with a smile. "Of course, in any clan, there are always a few who don't know their place, right?" Inoichi's eyes sharpened. "What do you mean by that?" "We captured a loyalist of Danzō's in the route today," Kuragami said. "He is from your Yamanaka clan. This puts me in a tough position. After all, we all serve under the Hokage. It would be unfortunate if this matter caused tension between our clans." "Was it Fu?" Inoichi's gaze flickered. "That man has long forsaken the honor of our clan since joining the route. You don't need to show any mercy on my behalf. Handle him as you see fit. If necessary, I'll personally clean the house." "I see." Kuragami nodded. "He has forgotten his roots, then? No wonder he started making wild accusations." "Accusations?" Inoichi frowned. "Indeed. That man claimed that, during his time en route, he funneled a total of 140 million ryo to the Yamanaka clan through his position." Kuragami smiled as he looked into Inoichi's eyes. Of course, I know the Yamanaka wouldn't make such a fundamental mistake, and I don't doubt you. However, during our investigation into Root's finances, we did find over 100 million ryo unaccounted for. If possible, I'd appreciate it if you could visit the Uchiha Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force sometime. After all, I need to explain this missing sum to the Hokage. I understand. I'll stop by the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force soon. Inoichi said after a brief moment of thought. Then I won't keep you from your family dinner any longer. Kuragami said, waving the bouquet of flowers in his hand. Also, on behalf of my fallen clan members, I thank you for your generosity, clan head Inoichi. Chapter 13, a late-night visitor. After leaving the Yamanaka flowers shop, Kuragami Uchiha returned to the Uchiha clan's district. Instead of going straight home, he headed to Fugaku Uchiha's residence. Fugaku was surprised by Kuragami's unexpected late-night visit but still invited him inside. After serving tea to the two men, Mikoto Uchiha quietly left the room. Fugaku looked at the young man who had taken the position of clan head from him. Surprisingly, he harbored no resentment toward Kuragami for the power shift. In truth, he had long wished for someone else to take over the burden of leading the Uchiha clan. Moreover, Kuragami had managed to consolidate the clan's unity in no time and suppress the voices advocating for rebellion. Even Fugaku had to admit that Kuragami's methods were impressive. Kuragami, the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force has put up recruitment notices for civilian ninjas as per your instructions. However, most civilian ninjas in the village are still hesitant, so there are very few applicants today. They are mostly just freshly graduated geinin. Fugaku reported. For catching petty thieves and managing street patrols, geinin will do just fine. Kuragami replied. Besides, with the clan providing jutsu, we won't have to worry about a lack of recruits for long. As long as you're aware of the situation. But Kuragami, I have done some calculations today. If we follow the budget you set yesterday, the clan's funds will last no more than 3 months. After that, we'd have to start selling off ancestral property. Fugaku warned. I already told you, don't worry about the money. I've secured funds, and in a few days, someone will deliver them to us. Kuragami said calmly after taking a sip of tea. Then, your reason for coming here tonight? Fugaku was puzzled. Surely, Kuragami hadn't come all this way just for a cup of tea. I came to talk about Itachi. Kuragami stated. Itachi. Fugaku sighed. I've already heard about what happened outside the Shimura clan territory today. Sending him to the Anbu was a mistake on my part. Having him join the Anbu wasn't necessarily a bad decision. Kuragami said. However, sending him to the battlefield at such a young age was the real mistake. You think so? Fugaku asked while pursing his lips. Itachi was gifted from a young age, but you exposed him to the dark side of the world too soon. He's an overthinker, but when one's knowledge isn't sufficient to support their thoughts, those thoughts become dangerous. Kuragami explained. I once heard a wise saying, learning without thinking is futile, thinking without learning is perilous. That applies perfectly to him. In the end, it's my failure as a father. Fugaku sighed heavily. Then, without turning his gaze, he spoke toward the closed door. Since you're here, you might as well come in. The door to the courtyard slid open, and Itachi Uchiha entered. He was still wearing his Anbu uniform. Father, clan head. Itachi greeted them both with a bow. No need to be so formal when you're off duty. Kuragami waved him off. Kuragami. Itachi acknowledged him with a nod. You heard everything your brother just said, didn't you? Fugaku asked. Itachi lowered his head in silence. Fugaku sighed again. He had never been good at communicating with his son. Itachi's worldview was already set, and mere words wouldn't change his mind. Kuragami, I have a question. Itachi suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. Go ahead. If one day, the clan and the village were to come to blows, what would you do? Itachi looked Kuragami directly in the eyes. That day will never come as long as I'm here. Kuragami replied. But if it did? Itachi pressed. Itachi, that's enough. Fugaku said sternly, his voice low with anger. Kuragami smiled calmly. The village sent me to the battlefield when I was 9. It was my Kekkei Genkai that gave me the strength to survive. If that day ever comes, I will do everything in my power to stop you. Itachi declared with an unwavering gaze. You're out of line, Itachi. Fugaku, who had long suspected that Itachi's allegiance was no longer with the clan, was still shocked by his outright defiance. Even his usual restraint couldn't keep him from losing his temper. It's fine. Kuragami gestured for Fugaku to calm down. Then, with a smile, he turned back to Itachi. You are a prodigy of the clan, Itachi. I believe that one day, you'll awaken eyes like mine. But you cannot stop the course of fate. Perhaps you don't yet understand what I mean by that. When you do, You'll no longer be troubled by such questions." With that, Kuragami stood up and turned to Fugaku. "Elder Fugaku, I won't take up any more of your time. Please continue to oversee the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force affairs." Then, without another word, he left. By the time Kuragami returned to his small room, it was already past midnight. The clan was in the process of preparing a new residence for him as the clan head, but for now, Kuragami had to make do with his cramped quarters. After lighting a lamp, he carefully began maintaining his chakra blade. As a jonin, even though he was stationed at the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force and didn't take on many missions for the village, he still shouldn't have been living in a room smaller than 30 square meters. But this sword, his cherished Swift Thunder, was the reason why. It was forged entirely from chakra metal, which had cost him every bit of his savings. "Well, since you're already here, you might as well show yourself," Kuragami suddenly said without lifting his gaze from his sword. Silence. There was no response. "I don't know if my blade will kill you, but if I have to swing it, you're paying for the damage." Kuragami chuckled as arcs of electricity flickered along the surface of his sword. At this time, a shadow dropped from the ceiling. The newcomer had messy white hair, a face mask, and his headband tilted to cover his left eye. It was none other than Kakashi, whom Kuragami had briefly encountered that morning. "So, it's you, Kakashi-senpai. I thought you'd take a little longer before coming to find me." Kuragami smiled, sheathing his blade. "Sit." Kuragami gestured for Kakashi to sit across from him, then calmly laid out a set of teacups and started boiling water. Chapter 14, A Hero Shouldn't Meet Such an End. Kuragami Uchiha brewed tea in a calm and unhurried manner. Since his first kill on the battlefield at the age of 9, he had spent 6 years teetering on the edge of life and death. The countless farewells to comrades and teammates had ultimately granted him the Uchiha clan's ultimate power, the Mangekyō Sharingan. However, Kuragami could also clearly feel that his mental state had become increasingly unstable under this relentless torment. Well, it made sense. After all, with the Mangekyō, wouldn't it be a waste if he didn't go a little crazy? To maintain his sanity, he had taken up the time to study the tea ceremony after the war ended. Not for any profound reason but simply to stabilize his mind. Inside his modest residence, everything was quiet except for the occasional clink of teaware. Kakashi, however, had no patience for such tranquility. Seeing that Kuragami had yet to respond, he asked directly, "What exactly is the meaning of that record you showed me today?" As the boiling water met the tea leaves, the fragrance diffused into the air. Kuragami glanced at Kakashi, then handed him a cup of hot tea before finally responding. "You went to see Granny Mori?" Kakashi met Kuragami's gaze with his uncovered eye, then nodded. "Yes. Make sure to visit her more often. She's been through a lot. The clan's support is sufficient, but living alone must be lonely. Can you tell me what was written in that record first? As for the clan members who have been criticizing you, I'll speak to them. As the clan head, I still hold some authority." "Kuragami." Kakashi's voice sharpened with frustration at Kuragami's evasive response. "Look at you, always in such a hurry." Kuragami suddenly chuckled and gestured toward the tea in front of Kakashi. Then he turned and placed the kettle back on the fire. Seizing this moment, Kakashi swiftly pulled down his mask, drained the tea in one gulp, and then placed his mask back. Kuragami turned back just in time to see Kakashi's expression twitching from the scalding tea. He sighed, shaking his head in exasperation. "The contents of that report are exactly as you read. But we haven't started a full investigation yet," Kuragami finally said after downing his own tea. "When that incident happened, I wasn't born yet. But over the years, I've heard bits and pieces within the clan." He paused. If what the elders say is true, then Kakashi Hatake was truly a great ninja. He shouldn't have met such an end. Is that so? Kakashi sounded doubtful. Over the years, though his father's name had nearly faded from Hidden Leaf Village's history, those who did mention him rarely had kind words. "I don't know what others think, but the Uchiha clan has always held a deep respect for Kakashi Hatake," Kuragami said. "You know better than anyone, there's no one who values their comrades more than the Uchiha." "Thank you." Kakashi has calmed down now. Hearing such high praise for his father filled him with gratitude. At the same time, Kuragami's words reminded him of his dead old comrade. However, Kuragami sighed, setting down his teacup. "From what I've uncovered today, your father's death may not have been as simple as it seemed. At the very least, Danzo was involved in some rather shady dealings. There's significant debate within the clan about whether or not we should investigate further. The incident back then implicated too many people. According to the elders, Kakashi Hatake had strong support for becoming the 4th Hokage." Kakashi frowned, trying to grasp the implications. Kuragami sighed again. For shinobi raised to be efficient killers, politics was certainly beyond their usual training. Unfortunately, he had no choice. Right now, Kakashi possessed the one thing the Uchiha clan lacked the most: political influence. Why had Hiruzen Sarutobi kept Kakashi and Anbu for the past 6 years? Kakashi himself probably didn't realize just how valuable his status as the sole surviving disciple of the 4th Hokage was. Although Minato Namikaze had died before he could fully establish his own faction, many in the village still mourn the Yellow Flash. His former personal guard, though marginalized after his death, remained a force to be reckoned with in Hidden Leaf Village. That was precisely why Kuragami had orchestrated this entire setup to get closer to Kakashi. With that thought, he shook his head and said, "Forget it. I'll continue investigating this on my own." "Thank you." Kakashi didn't fully understand why, but he could tell Kuragami had made this decision with great determination. "There's no need to thank me. I simply believe that a hero shouldn't meet such an end," Kuragami said. "If you really want to express gratitude, visit Granny Mori more often." "I understand." Kakashi nodded solemnly. With that, he walked toward the window, preparing to leave before dawn. "Oh, one more thing." Kuragami suddenly spoke up, stopping Kakashi in his tracks. Kakashi turned back, his lone eye filled with curiosity. "In a few days, come to the Hidden Leaf Village military police force to take custody of that wood-style user. The interrogation is nearly complete. Since he's the only wood-style user in the village aside from the first Hokage, keeping him with us is too much of a hassle." Kakashi nodded, then leaped out the window, disappearing into the night. After Kakashi left, Kuragami moved to the window, his gaze flickering with thought. Once he cleared Kakashi Hatake's name, Kakashi, bearing the dual prestige of the hero's son and the Hokage's disciple, would inevitably become the center of attention in the village. At that point, regardless of what others thought, the Uchiha clan, who had helped him restore his father's honor, would be his most steadfast ally. And that would mark the moment when the Uchiha clan truly stepped into the spotlight. Chapter 15, The Advisor's Visit. The next morning, Kuragami Uchiha went straight to the interrogation room of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. Clan head. The Uchiha members inside the room nodded and greeted him upon his arrival. "How did things go with those 3 from yesterday?" Kuragami Uchiha asked. "Huh?" Uchiha, who was in charge of the interrogation, was momentarily stunned. Yesterday, his superior hadn't exactly given any instructions on what to extract from them. Kuragami Uchiha fell silent upon seeing this, and then he turned his gaze toward the 3 high-ranking members of the Shimura clan who were tied to the interrogation racks, already beaten beyond recognition. Clearly, these were all personal grudges at play. "Apologies, the clan members were a bit too eager to help. I couldn't stop them," Uchiha said with an awkward smile. Kuragami Uchiha shook his head. "No worries. I should have been more specific with my orders." After speaking, he pulled up a chair and sat down a short distance from the 3 men. "Tell me, how much do you know about Danzo Shimura's crimes?" His gaze met their bloodshot eyes, filled with hatred. "The Uchiha are inherently evil. Hokage-sama will not let you get away with this." The oldest of the 3, a Shimura elder deeply tied to Danzo, coughed up a mouthful of blood and glared venomously. Before Kuragami Uchiha could respond, a nearby Uchiha immediately struck the elder's mouth with a baton. "Uncle Fudao?" Kuragami Uchiha glanced at the attacker. Fudao Uchiha was a middle-aged elite jonin of the clan. "I thought Squad 4 had the day off today." "Well, the interrogation team was a bit short-handed, so I figured I'd lend a hand." Fudao Uchiha chuckled. Years ago, during the Third Shinobi War, his second son had died in combat. In his heart, he had long suspected foul play when, out of a 9-man squad, only 2 Shimura members had survived unscathed. Now that some of the Shimura clan members were in their hands, it was no surprise that he and others who had suffered similar losses were eager to take revenge. He had waited all night for his turn. As Fudao Uchiha continued to mercilessly beat Retsudo Shimura, Kuragami Uchiha turned his attention to another prisoner. "Arashi Shimura, we have evidence that during the Land of Water campaign, you colluded with an enemy ninja, leading to the deaths of Uchiha Jonin, 2 Chunin, and 3 civilian ninjas. Afterward, you took 6 pairs of Sharingan from our clan and offered them as a tribute to the rogue ninja, Danzo Shimura. What do you have to say about that?" Kuragami Uchiha asked in an unhurried manner while resting his head on one hand. Kuragami Uchiha. "You're slandering me." Arashi Shimura roared in fury. "Keep quiet." Before he could say more, another hard strike silenced him. Kuragami Uchiha then shifted his gaze to the last prisoner. "Yuzuki Shimura. What do you want? I have never even been on a battlefield. Are you proud of that as a ninja?" Kuragami Uchiha sneered. "Your case has nothing to do with the Third Shinobi War." We found records that in year 44 of Hidden Leaf Village, you spread malicious rumors in the village that led to the suicide of the legendary Hidden Leaf Village's White Fang, Kakashi Hokage. You were also involved in silencing a key witness, Kishida Keisuke. Am I wrong? You're lying. I never did anything like that. A flicker of panic flashed in Yuzuki Shimura's eyes, which did not escape Kuragami Uchiha's notice. Kuragami Uchiha sat up straight with great interest. Unexpectedly, he casually named someone based on the Shimura clan's genealogy, yet he had still managed to uncover something worthwhile. There's an old saying, a wise man adapts to circumstances. Look around you. These various torture devices. I'm sure they'll loosen your tongue sooner or later. I'd suggest you cooperate. At this time, Kuragami's voice became icy. At that moment, a clan member entered the interrogation room and whispered something in Kuragami Uchiha's ear. Clan head Hiroshi, and the two Hokage advisors have arrived. They're demanding that we release these three. Kuragami Uchiha, if you know what's good for you, you'll let us go immediately. The village won't let you get away with this. Retsudo Shimura, overhearing the report, sneered arrogantly. So noisy. Kuragami Uchiha sighed and turned to Uchiha. Uncle Ftao, you're getting older, don't force yourself too much. Humphrey, don't underestimate me, brat. Even at 60, I could still beat someone the likes of him without breaking a sweat. Uchiha grumbled, increasing the force of his strikes, making Retsudo Shimura's agonized screams echo through the chamber. Easy, Uncle Ftao, don't kill him. Kuragami Uchiha called out as he left the room, walking leisurely toward the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's main gate. Outside the gate, Hiroshi Shimura stood alongside Hamura Midokado and Koharu Uchiha, blocking the entrance. Behind them, there were a large number of ninjas from the Shimura clan. Advisors, you must seek justice for the Shimura clan. Hiroshi Shimura pleaded, his voice filled with grief. Danzo-sama devoted his entire life to the village, yet after his death, his clan is being persecuted like this. This is clearly the Uchiha clan's revenge. Don't worry, the village will definitely give you an explanation. Koharu Uchiha soothed over. At that moment, Kuragami Uchiha and Fugaku Uchiha walked out of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force together. Oh? What brings the esteemed advisors here today? Kuragami Uchiha said with a chuckle. He then turned to Fugaku. Uncle Fugaku, this is on you. How could you let the advisors stand outside like this? At the very least, you should invite them in for tea. My apologies, my duties have kept me occupied. Fugaku Uchiha calmly responded. Kuragami Uchiha, you've gone too far. Release Retsudo Shimura and the others immediately. This is completely outrageous. When Koharu sees Kuragami, she immediately gets angry. Release them. Kuragami Uchiha's smile didn't waver. I'm afraid that's impossible. The three of them are closely tied to the crimes of the rogue ninja, Danzo Shimura. They are suspected of selling village secrets, harming fellow Hidden Leaf Village ninja, and other acts of treason. You're slandering them. This is blatant defamation. Hiroshi Shimura, emboldened by the presence of the advisors, now stood tall and accused Kuragami Uchiha righteously. Yesterday, within the Shimura clan's own territory, he hadn't dared to challenge Kuragami Uchiha. But here, with the advisors backing him, he felt safe enough to fight back loudly with confidence. Chapter 16, New Prisoner. Whether it is slander or not is not for you army to decide, evidence speaks for itself. Kuragami Uchiha's expression turned cold. Oh, you came just in time. According to your accomplice, Retsudo Shimura, you were also involved in Danzo Shimura's plundering of the KK Genkai's of fellow Hidden Leaf Village ninja. Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, arrest the suspect, Hiroshi Shimura. The moment Kuragami Uchiha's voice fell, several Uchiha Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force members rushed out from behind him, ready to seize Hiroshi Shimura on the spot. Kuragami Uchiha. Koharu Uchiha, who was used to being in a position of power, was furious that Kuragami Uchiha was completely disregarding her authority and was even attempting to arrest someone right in front of her. She immediately shouted, "How dare you act like this? Who gave you the authority to make arrests?" "Good question," Kuragami Uchiha exclaimed. He drew his long sword from his waist, and in an instant, two lightning-infused blade arcs slashed past the two Hidden Leaf Village elders, landing at Hiroshi Shimura's feet. The explosion from the lightning chakra forced back the Shimura clan members who had attempted to intervene while simultaneously knocking Hiroshi Shimura to the ground. In the blink of an eye, Uchiha Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force members swarmed in and subdued Hiroshi Shimura. "You ask who gave me the authority to arrest people? Then let me tell you." Kuragami Uchiha slowly walked through the stairs and approached the two advisors. That night, When confronted with Danzō Shimura's crimes, it was the third Hokage himself who entrusted the Uchiha clan with the full authority to investigate the matter. Is that reason enough? When the second Hokage established the Hidden Leaf Village military police force and entrusted the Uchiha clan with this responsibility, it was to protect the village and purge the likes of Danzō, a tumor willing to harm his own comrades for personal gain. Is that reason enough? Kuragami Uchiha stepped closer to Koharu Uchiha, turned to face the Hokage monument, and then looked her directly in the eye. And if those reasons are still not enough, then what about the vow made by the first Hokage upon founding the village? The vow to protect every single comrade in Hidden Leaf Village, does that reason suffice? Today, it is not just me who wishes to arrest him. It is the 11,000 ninjas and 85,000 civilians of Hidden Leaf Village who will not tolerate a tumor like him. You. Hamura Mikado, standing nearby, wanted to say something, but with Kuragami Uchiha invoking the first Hokage's name, there was little room left for argument. For the past 2 days, the Hidden Leaf Village military police force had been posting recruitment notices for civilian ninjas, attracting many to apply. Now, a large number of these onlookers had gathered, watching the unfolding scene. So the Uchiha clan actually upholds justice? Seems like the rumors about them aren't entirely true. The civilian ninja whispered among themselves. The Shimura clan had this coming. They've always been arrogant in the village, thinking they could do whatever they wanted. Looks like they finally hit a wall. The reputation of the Shimura clan wasn't much better than that of the Uchiha in the village. Seeing them suffer misfortune, the common folk naturally took pleasure in it. However, the two advisors showing up here like this, what exactly are you trying to cover up? Kuragami Uchiha narrowed his eyes on the two elders. I hear that the two of you were quite close to Danzō. Shut up, Kuragami Uchiha. Stop speaking nonsense. Hamura Mikado raged. I will report today's incident to the Hokage exactly as it happened. Be my guest. Kuragami Uchiha scoffed and turned, walking back into the Hidden Leaf Village military police force headquarters without looking back. If you two advisors have no further business here, perhaps you would like us to escort you home? Fugaku Uchiha spoke up. Humphrey. Seeing no advantage in staying and being aware of the skeptical gazes from the surrounding shinobi, the two advisors could only snort coldly and leave. After Hiroshi Shimura was dragged into the interrogation room, the three other captured Shimura members all showed expressions of horror. They had initially thought their clan head and the two advisors had come to rescue them, only to realize he had fallen into the trap as well. Make sure to properly greet our dear clan head Hiroshi. Kuragami Uchiha instructed, throwing Hiroshi Shimura into the room like a dead dog. But be careful, don't get any blood on him. We wouldn't want to offend the spirits of our fallen clan members at the funeral tonight. Yes. The Uchiha Hidden Leaf Village military police force members responded in unison. Having settled everything, Kuragami Uchiha left the headquarters. The Uchiha clan was holding a funeral to honor their fallen brethren and return the stolen Sharingan to their clan shrine. Clan head, aside from the Shimura, Mikado, and Uchiha clans, every other clan has sent funeral offerings. Saito Uchiha hurried over to report when Kuragami Uchiha arrived at the clan shrine. I see. Go and invite Elder Fugaku here. Yes. Saito Uchiha nodded and left. Kuragami Uchiha then made his way to the area where the funeral offerings were placed. Among them was a tribute from the Yamanaka clan. Kuragami Uchiha did not open it immediately but instead waited until Fugaku Uchiha arrived before proceeding. At the top layer of the offering were just ordinary items. But beneath them, shining gold and 2 village land deeds were revealed. Fugaku Uchiha's eyes lit up. He turned to Kuragami Uchiha and asked, so this is the money you managed to squeeze out of them? Kuragami Uchiha nodded while carefully counting the items, and then he frowned slightly. This still doesn't add up. With that, he proceeded to open the offerings from the Akimaki and Nara clans. Their contents were identical to those of the Yamanaka clan. They're sending us a message. Kuragami Uchiha sneered as he finished calculating the total value. The amount is exactly 140 million ryo. This is the protection fee that the Yamanaka, Nara, and Akimaki clans are paying for their involvement with Danzō. However, the coordinated gestures of all 3 clans made their stance clear. They stood together and were unwilling to be further dragged into Uchiha affairs. Humphrey, the Yamanaka Nara Akimaki alliance. Fugaku Uchiha smirked coldly. It doesn't matter. These 3 clans were never of much value to us anyway. The fact that we managed to get money out of them is already a pleasant surprise. Kuragami Uchiha remained unfazed. After all, the Yamanaka Nara Akimaki trio had been deeply bonded with the Sarutobi clan since the Warring States period. Every generation swore their oath of unity with ceremonial earrings witnessed by the Sarutobi clan head. Kuragami Uchiha had never expected to win them over in the first place. Chapter 17, Arrangements for Yamato. That night, within the Uchiha clan's shrine, under the priest's lengthy chants, 9 Sharingan eyes removed from Danzo's arm were sent into the depths of the shrine under the watchful eyes of all the gathered clansmen. As the ritual concluded and the crowd gradually dispersed, Kuragami Uchiha once again made his way to the interrogation chamber. The 3 elders from the Shimura clan, who had been tortured the entire day, had little strength left. However, the newly captured prisoner, Hiroshi Shimura, cursed incessantly upon seeing Kuragami Uchiha. Kuragami simply dug his finger into his ear and ignored him. The Uchiha Chunin, who was in charge of interrogation, saw this and applied more force with his baton. While ignoring them, Kuragami walked straight to the cell where the wood-style user, who had yet to be named Yamato by the 3rd Hokage, was being held. Since Kuragami had already decided to hand him over to Kakashi as a merit to his name, he no longer made things difficult for him. Aside from a brutal beating on the first day, he had been held in solitary confinement ever since. Of course, Kuragami personally used the sealing jutsu on him. After all, despite being far weaker than the 1st Hokage, he was still a wood-style user, and leaving him unchecked would make it difficult for the average Chunin in the interrogation unit to restrain him. In the corner of the cell, the man who was to be known as Yamato at the time abruptly sat up upon hearing movement. Kuragami stepped inside and switched on the lamp, and the sudden brightness made Yamato squint his eyes. Just as he was about to take action, the clattering chains and the severe pain caused by the sealing jutsu on his body reminded him of his current situation. "Let's talk," Kuragami said while dragging a chair in front of Yamato and sitting down. "Humphrey, I won't say a thing," Yamato snapped. "By the way, how much was Danzo paying you?" Kuragami chuckled. "We followed Danzo-sama for the sake of Hidden Leaf Village. Such things cannot be measured in money," Yamato declared righteously. "Oh? So you weren't even getting paid? Then why the hell were you risking your life for him?" Kuragami asks with a smile. "You Uchihas, born with evil in your blood, could never understand Danzo-sama's sacrifices for the village." Yamato spat, his eyes burning with fanatical devotion. Yamato looked so enthusiastic that Kuragami shook his head, and Kuragami sighed. "You mean people like Yamanaka and the others? At least they had their families as leverage, which is how Danzo manipulated them. But you? You're an orphan. Was it really worth it?" At this moment, a servant brought in food, which Kuragami casually handed to Yamato. Yamato sneered but remained silent. "Tell me, how did you acquire your wood style?" Kuragami continued. "Your crimes aren't that severe. Sure, we found out you were ordered by Danzo to assassinate a 3rd Hokage, but Hokage-sama is a man who values talent, he likely won't pursue it too harshly. And Kakashi put in a good word for you. Out of respect for him, I don't plan to investigate you further. As long as you cooperate, you can still walk free. I will never betray Danzo-sama." Yamato growled through gritted teeth. "It's not that hard to figure out. It was Orochimaru, wasn't it?" Kuragami mused. Back then, the artificial wood-style project wasn't much of a secret among the noble clans. The fools in the Senju clan were completely hoodwinked by it, and their once great clan dwindled down to just a handful of survivors. Eventually, the 3rd Hokage shut down the project due to excessive losses and a lack of results. But Danzo, that old bastard, was never one to give up. Kuragami continued. He continued his experiments in secret, and his collaborator was Orochimaru. You're the only successful result from that project, aren't you?" Yamato's eyes widened in disbelief. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not stupid." Kuragami smirked. "It's not hard to piece together. The village orphanage had children disappearing all the time. This was documented in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force records. But before, we had no choice but to turn a blind eye because of Danzo's influence. However, right before Orochimaru defected, the number of missing orphans suddenly spiked. After his escape, the disappearances dropped drastically. Given your age, it wasn't hard to connect the dots." Yamato's gaze flickered while Kuragami struck while the iron was hot and pressed on. "So tell me, why are you so loyal to a man who abducted you, experimented on you, and turned you into a lab rat? You should be loyal to the Hokage and the Will of Fire, not to some old schemer who only saw you as a tool. You have 2 choices in front of you," Kuragami stated firmly. 1. Cooperate, come clean, and start living like a normal ninja in the light. Or 2. Continue resisting and die for a man who never saw you as anything but a tool. The cursed tongue eradication seal on you is already nullified. Don't waste the opportunity Kakashi fought to get for you." With that, Kuragami left the food and water behind and walked out without another word. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, Hyuga and Sarutobi kept smoking while the two advisors who had run into trouble with Kuragami were staring at him without saying a word. Hyuga, we can't let Kuragami Uchiha continue like this. Hamura Midikado finally broke the silence and spoke. He is clearly using this investigation as an excuse to eliminate his enemies. He even dared to arrest the head of the Shimura clan. If this goes on, we might find ourselves in the interrogation room next. Kuragami wouldn't do that. Sarutobi muttered after a long silence. He was wary of Kuragami's Koto Amatsukami and was still reeling from the events at the village gates just 3 days ago. The sight of Danzo's gruesome corpse had been burned into the minds of Hidden Leaf Village's elite. If he suddenly ordered the Uchiha clan to halt their investigation, many within the village might start having doubts. Hyuga, you can't hesitate any longer. Have you forgotten the second Hokage's teachings? Koharu Uchiha snapped. Fine. Hyuga and Sarutobi finally conceded. But we can't just order Uchiha to stop the investigation without reason. He pondered for a moment before looking at the side. Kakashi, go to the Uchiha clan and tell Kuragami to report on the investigation's progress tomorrow. At this time, a masked figure emerged from the darkness. Understood. Kakashi walked out of the shadows in the office and disappeared into the darkness after accepting the order. Chapter 18, Fabricating Evidence. When Kuragami Uchiha received the message delivered by Kakashi, he was at the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force headquarters, working with Fugaku to categorize the clan's jutsu for distribution to civilian ninjas joining the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force. They selected 3 C-rank jutsu for each chakra nature from their clan's archives and the spoils collected by past Uchiha ninjas. Fire-style jutsus were given, with the famous Great Fireball Jutsu and Phoenix Flower Jutsu included. As for the other 4 chakra natures, while their jutsus might not be as refined as those of clans specializing in them, they were still superior to the standard jutsu available to most genin. After all, not just any jutsu was worthy of being part of the Uchiha collection. Handing out C-rank jutsu just after a month of work? Isn't that a bit too much? Fugaku was hesitant. After all, for an ordinary genin outside the clan, obtaining a C-rank jutsu without a capable jonin mentor could take an entire year of missions. This was one of the key reasons for the significant gap between clan ninjas and civilian ninjas. Just let them have it. Kuragami was indifferent. No matter how many people learn these jutsus, the jutsu themselves won't disappear. Other clans may need to carefully control their resources, but the Uchiha don't have that concern. Our foundation will always be the Sharingan. At that moment, a knock came at the door of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force Captain's office. Clan head, Kakashi Hatake is here. When Kuragami opened the door, a young Uchiha Chunin stood outside reporting. The boy, 2 years younger than Kuragami, had only graduated from the academy last year. However, his expression showed clear displeasure at Kakashi's arrival. Kentaro, a guest is a guest. Don't be rude. Kuragami called the young man by name, giving him a calm reminder. But Kentaro Uchiha hesitated, but Kuragami had already placed a hand on his shoulder as they walked. I know what you want to say. Kakashi may bear Uchiha eye, but it was a dying gift from our clan's hero, Obito Uchiha. That eye is the continuation of Obito's will. We, the Uchiha, respect the decisions of our fallen clansmen. Besides, Kakashi has not tarnished the Sharingan's name. Kuragami didn't lower his voice, and since the reception room wasn't far from the office, Kakashi could hear every word clearly inside. Kakashi was slightly moved. Ever since he had received this eye, the Uchiha clan had always looked at him with hostility. Yet now, the new clan head was unexpectedly friendly toward him. Kuragami pushed open the door and stepped into the reception room. To what pleasure do I owe you, Kakashi-senpai? I bring orders from the Hokage. He requests your presence at the Hokage's office tomorrow to report on the investigation of Danzo Shimura. I understand. Kuragami nodded. I'll be there. Seeing this, Kakashi turned to leave, but Kuragami stopped him. Wait a moment, Kakashi-senpai. What is it? Kakashi turned back, puzzled. Since you're here, you might as well take the wood-style ninja with you. We've finished investigating him. Due to his age, he wasn't involved in most of Danzo's crimes. There's only one case in question, and I believe you know what it is. His fate should be left to the Hokage's judgment. Kuragami smiled. At this time, Kakashi also remembered the wood-style ninja he had fought with when he was protecting the third Hokage, so he nodded. Kuragami led Kakashi to the prison cells. As they walked, the screams of the imprisoned Shimura clan members echoed through the halls, causing Kakashi to frown slightly. The Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's interrogation methods aren't as refined as the ambush, so we have to use more traditional means. Kuragami remained expressionless. Inside, We have a man who played a key role in the Hidden Leaf Village's White Fang incident. Would you like to take a look? Kakashi's eyes flickered with emotion, but in the end, he refused. No, my presence there wouldn't be appropriate. Kuragami didn't press the matter. He simply brought Kakashi to the cell where Yamato was being held and pulled out a scroll. This guy is the product of Danzo's collaboration with the rebel ninja Orochimaru. I'll explain the details to the third Hokage tomorrow. Here's the key to his sealing jutsu. Kuragami handed the scroll to Kakashi and gestured for him to take the prisoner. Shortly after, Kakashi left with Yamato. Meanwhile, Kuragami turned and entered the cell holding Yamanaka. Unlike Yamato, Yamanaka had received far worse treatment. Since his capture, he hadn't had a single sip of water. In just 2 days, nearly every notable Uchiha Chunin had taken a turn beating him. He had also endured 3 rounds of Sharingan-induced mental torture. Now, he was strapped to a wooden cross, and he no longer had the strength to lift his head. Kuragami pulled up a chair and calmly began writing out Danzo's crimes. From conspiring with Orochimaru to experimenting on orphans, to deliberately sacrificing Hidden Leaf Village's ninjas on the battlefield to steal their Kekkei Genkai. And finally, orchestrating the smear campaign against Kakashi Hokage, driving a hero to suicide, and subsequently eliminating all who knew the truth. This was the advantage of being a transmigrator. Kuragami didn't need to interrogate anyone to know every atrocity Danzo had committed. He even knew exactly how to fabricate the necessary evidence. Once the crime record was complete, he stepped forward, cut Yamanaka's finger, and pressed his bloodied hand onto the document. Yamanaka weakly lifted his head and glared at Kuragami with sheer hatred. At that moment, Kuragami's Mangekyō Sharingan activated, and his chakra invaded Yamanaka's mind. Although Kuragami's Genjutsu skills were crude compared to his kin, barely at an entry-level proficiency, he didn't intend to extract information. He only wanted to break Yamanaka's spirit. In mere seconds, Yamanaka's mind crumbled under the power of the Mangekyō Sharingan, his consciousness shattered, and all that remained was a useless person who could only drool. Chapter 19, Report inside the Hokage's office. Kakashi gave a truthful report on what he had seen in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. However, when it came to the matter of White Fang, he hesitated for a moment and ultimately decided to withhold that part. After listening to Kakashi's report, Hyruzen and Sarutobi glanced at Yamato and then let out a long sigh. "Child, what is your name?" Hyruzen asked. The other party remained silent, but Hyruzen was not offended. He stepped forward and personally untied the restraints binding him. "You don't have a name? Then, from now on, you shall be called Yamato," Hyruzen declared. "The past is the past. Danzo is dead. From now on, live your life well as a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village." Hearing this, the other party was stunned for a moment while looking at the very person whom Danzo had once ordered him to assassinate years ago. "Since you possess the first Hokage's wood style, then you should also inherit his will to protect the village," Hyruzen said while looking at the other party. The boy, now named Yamato, trembled slightly as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he remained silent, merely glancing at the third Hokage before turning to Kakashi. "Kakashi, take care of this child from now on," Hyruzen instructed. "Understood." Kakashi nodded and then led Yamato out of the Hokage's office. After they left, Hyruzen returned to his seat and lit his pipe. Kuragami Uchiha's unexpected decision to return the wood-style user had caught him off guard. After all, this was wood-style. If the Uchiha truly intended to rebel, why would they willingly hand over such a valuable person? Could it be that Kuragami was truly a loyal Uchiha who cared for the village? Hyruzen found himself pondering this question throughout the night. The next morning, Kuragami Uchiha arrived at the Hokage's office, bringing along Yamanaka, who had now become a mindless shell of his former self. By the time he arrived, the office was already packed. In addition to the 2 advisors, Hamura Midokado and Koharu Udatane, Shikakunara, who had recently been officially appointed as a Hokage's assistant following Danzo's death, stood beside Hyruzen. Seeing this lineup, Kuragami Uchiha smirked slightly. Clearly, under the pressure of Kotoa Mitsukami, Sarutobi no longer dared to meet him alone. However, Kuragami didn't mind this at all. This grand display suited him just fine. "Hokage-sama, Vice Captain of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, Kuragami Uchiha, reporting in," Kuragami said with a bow. "Kuragami, you're here." Hyruzen nodded with a seemingly kind smile. Before Hyruzen could continue, Hamura Midokado suddenly snapped, "Kuragami Uchiha. You've used the investigation as a pretense to eliminate dissent and frame innocent people. How do you explain yourself?" Kuragami cast a disdainful glance at him. These 2 old relics only held power because of their seniority, he had never taken them seriously. "Is that what you believe as well?" Hokage-sama? Kuragami asked while turning to Hiruzen. Kuragami, the methods of the Uchiha have been a bit excessive. Hiruzen replied, choosing not to outright confirm the accusation but still attempting to reprimand him. When dealing with cancer like Danzo and his faction, should we be using soft methods? No. The only answer is to strike with overwhelming force. Kuragami said coldly. In these past few days alone, the crimes we've uncovered have been horrifying. With that, he took out a document he had written overnight detailing Danzo's criminal activities and placed it on Hiruzen Sarutobi's desk. Danzo, in his pursuit of our clan's Kakagenkai, deliberately caused the deaths of at least 14 Uchiha ninjas on record during the Third Shinobi World War. Kuragami declared. That's not even the worst of it. Despite Hokage-sama's explicit ban on human experimentation, Danzo colluded with the rebel ninja Orochimaru and kidnapped orphans from the village for experimentation. Some of the victims were as young as 2 years old. Are you two advisors really planning to shield a monster like that? Kuragami turned his sharp gaze to Hamura and Koharu. Do you think this aligns with the will of fire? Do you think this aligns with the first Hokage's vision of protecting the children from the horrors of war? Koharu was furious, but the accusation was simply too damning, so much so that even she found herself unable to refute it. Kuragami, calm down. They did not know the full extent of Danzo's actions. Hiruzen sighed, attempting to defend his old friends, and then he picked up the crime report. As he read through the list of Danzo's atrocities, even though he had known some of the details, the sheer scope of it left him speechless. Danzo had been far more reckless than he had imagined. All of these crimes were confessed by Danzo's key subordinate, Yamanaka, before his mind was shattered. Kuragami said, dragging the drooling, unresponsive Yamanaka forward and tossing him onto the ground. At the mention of the name, Shikakunara, who had been silent up until now, visibly tensed and looked toward Kuragami. Their eyes met, and he immediately understood. Kuragami's faint smirk carried an undeniable message. This was the Uchiha's counterattack, their warning to the Yamanaka Nara Akimaki clans. Shikaku sighed deeply. He knew that at this stage, there was no room for him to interfere. The struggle between the village leadership and the Uchiha had escalated beyond what his clan could handle. If they misstepped, it would mean utter destruction for the Yamanaka Nara Akimaki alliance. Hokage-sama. Kuragami continued, to prevent such incidents from happening again, I request that the Hokage assign a few Anbu interrogation specialists to assist in our investigations. After all, the Hidden Leaf Village military police force lacks the expertise to properly interrogate ninjas. Hiruzen considered this for a moment before nodding. I will send personnel to assist. Many thanks, Hokage-sama. Kuragami said, with his eyes gleaming. Hiruzen likely intended to send Anbu to keep an eye on the Uchiha, but Kuragami didn't mind at all. Whether those Anbu would actually be able to accomplish their mission. Well, that depended entirely on his own plans. As Hiruzen flipped to the final section of the crime report, his eyes landed on the part about the White Fang incident. Kuragami, this. Chapter 20, overturning the case in the course of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's investigation into Danzo Shimura's accomplices, we uncovered this matter. The rumors about White Fang back then were deliberately spread under Danzo's orders. Furthermore, several members of the Shimura clan, including the current clan head, Hiroshi Shimura, were involved in this scheme. They were also responsible for silencing White Fang's teammates. Kuragami Uchiha spoke calmly, carefully observing the reactions of Hiruzen Sarutobi and his two advisors. Upon hearing this revelation, the two advisors' eyes flickered with panic. Hiruzen Sarutobi, though more composed, still displayed some discomfort. Seeing this, Kuragami understood that these three weren't entirely innocent when it came to the White Fang incident. This matter should end here. The village has already reached a conclusion regarding White Fang's case. Koharu Uchiha immediately interjected. Oh? So we should just let a hero who bled for this village continue to be slandered, carrying his undeserved disgrace even after death? Kuragami said in a low voice while meeting her gaze directly. The failure of that mission was indeed Kakashi Hatake's fault. Hamura Mikado argued. But he was trying to protect his comrades, wasn't he? Kuragami countered calmly. A ninja's duty is to complete the mission above all else. Koharu insisted. Is that also how the third Hokage sees it? Kuragami turned to Hiruzen Sarutobi. Because that doesn't sound like the will of fire to me. The room fell into an eerie silence. Even Shikakunara, standing at the side, wished he could just melt into the shadows and disappear. Kuragami inwardly smirked. Ninjas were, at their core, tools of war, mercenaries paid to kill. The so-called will of fire, no matter how eloquently it was preached, could never erase the inherent darkness of their profession. But right now, invoking the will of fire was undeniably effective. Hiruzen Sarutobi couldn't deny it. The will of fire had been the cornerstone of his rule, deeply embedded into Hidden Leaf Village's ideology through his relentless propaganda. His entire political authority was bound to it. To question its righteousness would be to undermine its own legitimacy. Kuragami, I understand your stance. Hiruzen finally sighed. We will restore White Fang's honor. But as for the investigation, let's leave it at that. Too much time has passed, and continuing would be an unnecessary waste of resources. If that is the Hokage's decision, then the Hidden Leaf Village military police force will comply. Kuragami replied with his expression darkening, but inside, he was elated. He had already accomplished his main goal, to restore White Fang's reputation. Digging deeper might have uncovered even more dirt, but that wasn't necessarily a good thing. The Uchiha weren't yet ready to completely sever ties with the village leaders. In fact, he had been considering ways to stall the investigation. But now, Hiruzen himself had taken the burden off his shoulders by shutting it down. The Hidden Leaf Village military police force has also found evidence suggesting that Danzō Shimura had extensive dealings with the rebel ninja, Orochimaru. Kuragami continued. Since Orochimaru's crimes involve external threats, I request permission for the Hidden Leaf Village military police force and Anbu to collaborate in bringing him to justice. This is the only way to provide closure to the victims of his inhumane experiments. Orochimaru. Hiruzen's eyes darkened at the name. The past must finally be confronted. After a moment of silent contemplation, he turned to Kuragami. I understand. Kuragami, I will assign Kakashi to lead this mission. Your Hidden Leaf Village military police force will assist from the side. Is that acceptable? Yes. Kuragami nodded. This time, Orochimaru must be captured. Hiruzen declared gravely. I'm counting on you. Loyalty and devotion. Kuragami saluted sharply. As Kuragami left the office, he ignored Yamanaka, who was still drooling in a daze. Once he was gone, the two advisors immediately turned to Shikaku Nara, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. Nara Shikaku understood and said, Hokage-sama, Inoichi Yamanaka has told me that Yamanaka was forcibly taken by Danzō at a young age. Though he has committed unforgivable crimes under Danzō's orders and deserves his punishment, I beg that we show some leniency for the sake of the Yamanaka clan's past contributions. This is all Danzō's fault. Hiruzen sighed. Take the boy back to the Yamanaka clan and take good care of him. I understand. Shikaku nodded and led Yamanaka away. The moment he was gone, Hamura wasted no time voicing his concerns. Hiruzen, are we really going to let this slide? Are we just going to let the Uchiha continue their unchecked behavior? Hiruzen lit his pipe, inhaled deeply, and then looked up at his old friends. Kuragami will not act recklessly. He truly embodies the will of fire. Hiruzen. Koharu snapped. He's an Uchiha. Have you forgotten the second Hokage's warnings? Hiruzen, Danzō was right, you are too soft. Hamura added. If we continue to tolerate the Uchiha, you will regret it one day. Enough. Hiruzen slammed his desk, his face dark with anger. Do you think I want this? He bellowed. Because of Danzō and his stolen Sharingan, we owe the Uchiha a debt. If we pressure them too much, we'll be the ones pushing them into rebellion. Do you understand? The Uchiha already have someone who awakened Mangekyō Sharingan, and there is no longer a first Hokage to suppress them. Koharu and Hamura fell silent. After a long pause, Hiruzen sighed and tapped out the ashes from his pipe. I will summon Jiraiya back to the village. Chapter 21, Bows and Shuriken. After reporting to the Hokage, Kuragami Uchiha's days finally settled into a rare period of peace. The recruitment of civilian ninjas into the Hidden Leaf Village military police force was progressing smoothly. Ever since the incident where Kuragami publicly rebuked the two advisors at the entrance of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, the impression of the Uchiha clan among civilian ninjas had greatly improved. Furthermore, when they heard that the current head of the Uchiha clan was none other than Kuragami Uchiha, the one who had originally implemented the smiling law enforcement policy, many set aside their concerns and eagerly applied for positions. Some newly graduated academy students who had not been assigned to a Jonin squad even came directly to the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, hoping to secure a place there. In less than a week, the Hidden Leaf Village military police force successfully doubled its personnel, completing the expansion task set by Kuragami. At the same time, under Kuragami's leadership, the smiling law enforcement policy was extended throughout the entire Hidden Leaf Village military police force. As for Kuragami himself, the clan arranged for him to live in a luxurious residence deep within Uchiha territory. After moving in, the first thing he did was set up an archery range in the courtyard of his new home. With some free time on his hands, Kuragami's daily routine consisted of drinking tea, making rounds at the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, fabricating evidence against Danzō, having the captured members of the Shimura clan press their fingerprints on the documents, and then returning home to practice archery. One afternoon, after returning from the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, Kuragami changed out of his ninja vest, put on a hori, and began practicing archery in the courtyard. At this time, he held his breath to concentrate and hit the target with 2 arrows in succession. At that moment, his assigned housekeeper, Keiko Uchiha, entered the courtyard. Clan head, Kakashi Hokage, has came to visit. Let him in. Kuragami replied without turning his head. Understood. Shortly after Keiko left, Kakashi entered the courtyard, following her lead. After bringing him in, Keiko sensibly withdrew, closing the door to the backyard behind her. Hokage-sama's orders to capture the rebel ninja Orochimaru will officially commence the day after tomorrow, Kakashi announced. Kuragami didn't respond immediately. Instead, he kept his focus on the target, studied his breathing, drew his bow, and fired another arrow that hit the bullseye. Seeing this, Kakashi didn't press further. He simply found a pillar in the courtyard, leaned against it, and pulled out his beloved book, Make Out. For a while, the only sound in the courtyard was the whistling of arrows cutting through the air. After emptying his quiver, Kuragami finally paused and spoke. Kakashi, about White Fang's case, I'm sorry. This is the best I can do for now. Kakashi lowered his book upon hearing this, his expression turning serious. For that. Thank you. It's more than enough. Lately, the village had launched a campaign promoting the will of fire. Throughout the campaign, his father, Kakashi Hokage, was repeatedly cited as a model of a true ninja who upheld the will of fire. Many younger generations in the village only now learned that such a hero had once existed. Want to give it a try? Kuragami smiled, offering Kakashi his longbow. A bow, huh? I'm not really good with these. Kakashi declined. Besides, for a ninja, shuriken seems like a more fitting weapon, don't you think? Shuriken? Kuragami chuckled. With a swift motion of his right hand across his ninja pouch, 4 black streaks shot out. They clashed in midair before curving unpredictably toward the target 50 meters away, each one striking the center. The Uchiha clan's shuriken jutsu is truly impressive. Kakashi remarked in admiration. It's nothing special, just practice. Kuragami replied casually as he wiped his hands and picked up his bow again. But Kakashi, whether it's a bow or a shuriken, both were forged for the same purpose, to kill. He shot another arrow and hit the center once again. But personally, I prefer the bow. Kakashi looked puzzled. Wasn't the bow an outdated weapon used only by samurai? Compared to the convenience of shuriken, a bow seemed inefficient. Shuriken may be easy to use, but once thrown, you can barely recover even a tenth of them. Even those made of the finest steel are ultimately disposable. But a bow is different. As long as the bow remains intact, arrows can always be replenished. And most importantly, the arrow's path is always determined by the bow. With a sharp sound, another arrow flew out, shattering the shuriken embedded in the target. Kakashi pondered Kuragami's words. So, what do you say, Kakashi? Want to give it a shot? Kuragami turned to him with a smile. Alright. I'll give it a try. Kakashi hesitated briefly, then nodded. Sister Keiko, bring a bow for Kakashi. Kuragami called toward the courtyard gate. Before long, Keiko Uchiha returned, holding a long bow in both hands and respectfully presented it to Kakashi. Kakashi examined the bow curiously, it felt unfamiliar in his hands. Although the Hokage clan had once been a samurai clan, by his father's generation, they had fully transitioned into ninja. While they still specialized in kenjutsu, those had long been abandoned. After knocking an arrow into the bowstring, Kakashi clumsily drew the bow, aiming at the target 50 meters away. Steady your stance. Kuragami's voice guided him. Focus your mind and connect your intent with the target. The arrow should be released only after your will has already reached its mark. Kakashi adjusted his posture awkwardly, trying to follow Kuragami's instructions, his eyes locked on the target. Yet, despite his concentration, he hesitated for a long moment without releasing the arrow. Kakashi, calm your mind. Kuragami noticed Kakashi's problem and gently reminded him. Kakashi took a deep breath to calm his slightly restless heart and then shot out an arrow. As it cut through the air, Kakashi could already tell he had missed. A faint look of disappointment crossed his face. But just then, whoosh! The sound of a second bowstring echoed beside him. Kakashi turned his head in surprise to see Kuragami's bowstring still vibrating. In midair, another arrow had been loosed, one that had been fired after his own yet was traveling faster. It caught up to his arrow, colliding with it in mid-flight, and unbelievably, the 2 arrows realigned and flew together straight into the bullseye. Thud. Thud. Both arrows struck the target one after the other. Kakashi turned to Kuragami in shock, only to meet Kuragami's meaningful smile. Chapter 22, Pledging Loyalty. After Kakashi left, Kuragami Uchiha picked up the mission scroll regarding the pursuit of Orochimaru. It was clear that the third Hokage intended to let Kuragami Uchiha decide who from the Hidden Leaf Village military police force would participate in the mission. On the other hand, the Anbu had assigned 3 Jonins to the mission alongside Kakashi, their squad leader. Among these 3 Jonins, one came from the Midokado clan, another from the Inuzuka clan, and the last was a civilian ninja with no clan background. In addition, 4 special Jonins were assigned to the mission. Among them were Hyuga and Yuja Yuzuki, 2 rising stars renowned for their expertise in Hidden Leaf Village-style swordsmanship. The other 2 included one from the Midokado clan and another civilian ninja with no notable background. For reconnaissance purposes, 2 branch members of the Hyuga clan were also recruited. After some consideration, Kuragami Uchiha called out toward the door, "Keiko, notify Saito and Inika that they'll be joining me on this mission in 2 days." As the first among the Uchiha to openly pledge allegiance to him, Saito Uchiha and Inika Uchiha were naturally individuals whom Kuragami was willing to support. This mission was undoubtedly dangerous, given that their target was the infamous Orochimaru. However, Kuragami Uchiha had no intention of engaging in a death battle with Orochimaru this time. He quickly formed a series of hand seals, and with a puff of smoke, a messenger hawk emerged and perched on his shoulder, rubbing its cheek against his face. The hawk's eyes gleamed with a special red glow. After inscribing a unique sealing jutsu onto the hawk, Kuragami patted its head lightly. The hawk let out a sharp cry before spreading its wings and soaring into the sky, disappearing from his view in an instant. The following day, after 2 consecutive nights of overtime, Fugaku Uchiha finally finished assigning tasks to the newly recruited civilian ninjas. Starting tomorrow, they will officially begin their duties. To commemorate the occasion, Fugaku hosted a small induction ceremony and invited Kuragami Uchiha to attend. The Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's large conference room was packed with attendees. The original 227 ninjas from Uchiha were joined by the 254 newly recruited civilian ninjas. As Kuragami Uchiha and Fugaku Uchiha entered the conference room, Kuragami scanned the scene. It was clear that the civilian recruits still saw the Uchiha through a certain lens. Though they had mustered the courage to join the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, they still hesitated to fully integrate. When it came time to take their seats, they instinctively sat apart from the Uchiha members, leaving a row of empty chairs in the middle, a clear divide between the 2 groups. Seeing this, Kuragami Uchiha shook his head. The effort to improve the Uchiha clan's image was still a long road ahead. The ceremony began, and although Fugaku remained the official leader of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, he understood how important this matter was to Kuragami. Not wanting to steal his spotlight, Fugaku kept his speech brief and quickly handed the stage over to Kuragami. After stepping up to the podium, Kuragami swept his gaze across the room before speaking. "First, on behalf of the original 227 members of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, I'd like to welcome all of you to our ranks. With your addition, and under the will of fire, the Hidden Leaf Village military police force will embark on a new era." In the audience, Saito Uchiha took the lead in applauding, and soon, the room was filled with warm applause. Once the applause died down, Kuragami continued, "I assume that everyone who joined the Hidden Leaf Village military police force did so because you believe in it and in the Uchiha clan. Since we are all colleagues now, there is no need to keep such distance from one another." A friendly smile appeared on his face as he glanced at Inika Uchiha and Saito Uchiha. However, the 2 merely returned his gaze with their clear, clueless eyes, seemingly failing to grasp his intention. Kuragami sighed inwardly. The emotional intelligence of his clan members really left something to be desired. Fortunately, from the corner of the room, Shisui Uchiha was the first to stand up. He took the initiative to walk toward the civilian recruits, inviting them to sit together with the Uchiha members. Realizing Kuragami's unspoken message, Inika and Saito quickly followed suit, leading more young Uchiha to do the same. After a brief period of adjustment, the conference room, once divided, now had Uchiha and civilian ninjas mixed together. Seeing this, Kuragami Uchiha clapped his hands, and another round of applause erupted. "Now then, let us work together to make our village a better place." As his words concluded, the room once again filled with applause. "Next, let's discuss a topic that I'm sure many of you are concerned about, compensation." After the applause subsided, Kuragami smiled and continued, "Fugaku and I have reviewed the average earnings of village ninjas as well as the village's living expenses. As a result, we have decided to set your monthly salary at 80,000 ryo. Additionally, existing members of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force will receive a 20% raise on top of their previous salaries." As his words fell, the civilian ninjas looked on in disbelief. Most of them had previously relied on missions for income. A D-rank mission typically paid around 10,000 ryo, but after the village took its cut and the remaining amount was divided among the team, each genin would only receive a little over 1,000 ryo per mission. Even at their best, they could only complete 20 or so missions a month, earning around 20,000 to 30,000 ryo in total, just enough to cover expenses and save a little for jutsu training. From the rumors they had heard, they assumed the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's salary would be on par with D-rank mission earnings. What they hadn't realized was that the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force's D-rank mission salary did not account for village deductions and team splits. The Uchiha members were equally delighted at the direct 20% increase. Seeing the enthusiasm in the room, Kuragami decided to stoke the fire further. Additionally, since the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force headquarters is quite far from the village center, each of you will receive a monthly transportation allowance of 6,000 ryo. The civilian ninjas were stunned. There was more? Furthermore, Kuragami continued with a smile, I'm going to bend the rules a little. Originally, new recruits were supposed to receive their first jutsu after completing 1 month of service. However, I've decided that you'll all receive them immediately after this meeting. The room fell into a state of barely contained excitement. At that moment, Saito Uchiha suddenly stood up, raising his hand in salute. Salute to Vice Captain Kuragami. Loyalty. He shouted at the top of his lungs. Loyalty. The entire room rose to their feet, raising their right hands in unison. For Hidden Leaf Village, loyalty. Kuragami returned the salute. The echoes of their voices resounded throughout the hall. Chapter 23, Departure. After the induction ceremony, the newly recruited members of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force happily took the ninjutsu scrolls distributed by the Kuragami and headed home. Meanwhile, upon returning to his office, Kuragami Uchiha found Fugaku Uchiha sitting in his chair, looking displeased. Kuragami. Elder Fugaku, I'll bring back more money this time. Kuragami Uchiha said before Fugaku could speak. He knew Fugaku was about to bring up financial matters again. After all, the 6,000 ryo he had promised as a transportation subsidy was no small sum. Combined with salaries, the funds he had obtained from the Yamanaka clan wouldn't last much longer. Which clan this time? The Koharu clan? Or Mikado? Fugaku Uchiha asked curiously. Ninja clans? They don't have much money. Kuragami Uchiha chuckled. Think bigger, Elder Fugaku. In this shinobi world, who has the most wealth? Fugaku Uchiha's pupils shrank. He hadn't expected Kuragami to be this audacious. What he was planning completely defied the established rules of shinobi world. Compared to that, Uchiha-led rebellion within the village seemed like child's play. Looking at Kuragami's smiling face, Fugaku wanted to stop him. But then he thought of everything Kuragami had done since taking power and the increasingly clear vision of the future he saw through his Mangekyō Sharingan. A future where the Uchiha clan achieved a level of glory surpassing even their ancestors. In the end, he swallowed his concerns and simply warned, be careful. I will. Kuragami replied. Elder Fugaku, while I'm away, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force. I understand. Fugaku nodded and got up to leave. Oh, right, Elder Fugaku, send me 10 million ryo in cash. I'll need it for the mission. 10 million? That much? What kind of mission requires that amount of money? Fugaku was surprised. It's not about the mission itself. The mission isn't that important. Kuragami said. What matters is making sure the participating ninjas feel the Uchiha clan's generosity. Alright, I'll have someone send it over later. Fugaku nodded, then left the office. After a while, someone delivered the 10 million ryo as Kuragami requested. Kuragami sealed the cash inside a storage scroll, then packed up his belongings, ready to head home. However, as he stepped out of the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force headquarters, he saw an unexpected figure waiting at the entrance, Shizue Uchiha. Want to talk? Kuragami raised an eyebrow, inviting his once-equal rival in the clan to a conversation. Shizue nodded and followed him. Under the setting sun, the two walked toward the Uchiha district in silence, taking a leisurely stroll. Groups of children who had just come out from the academy ran past them, laughing and playing. The sight stirred something in Shizue, and he was the first to break the silence. Kuragami, what exactly is your goal? Shizue asked hesitantly. Haven't I told you already? Kuragami said while buying 2 sticks of dango from a roadside stall. Then he handed one to Shizue and took a bite of his own. You only said that to unsettle me back then, didn't you? Shizue said. Everything you've done has been about bringing the clan and the village closer together, ensuring peace between them. Is that so? Maybe what I said before was the truth. Kuragami replied ambiguously. Kuragami, don't lie to me anymore. Shizue said. You were right before, I was too arrogant. The power of Koto Umatsukami is too dangerous in my hands. A single misstep could doom both the clan and the village. Kuragami looked at Shizue and couldn't help but find his cousin's innocence endearing. By the way, why were you at the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force today? You still have a position there, but ever since you joined the Anbu, you rarely come by. Kuragami asked. The Hokage ordered me to return and monitor the unstable elements in the clan. Shizue replied. Hearing this, Kuragami laughed. So they finally remembered to use you as a spy? And by unstable elements, do they mean me? No. Shizue shook his head. The Hokage believes that you are a ninja who upholds the will of fire. Kuragami struggled to suppress his laughter. Is that so? Well, in any case, I should thank you. If you hadn't stepped forward, things could have ended badly for me. I was only doing what I should. Shizue said sincerely. After all, you're also working toward peace between the clan and the village. Regardless, since you're back, you might as well work seriously in the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force. Kuragami said while patting Shizue's shoulder in encouragement. At an intersection, the two parted ways. After returning home, Kuragami took out a scroll in his study. The scroll contained information extracted by the interrogation unit in recent days, addresses of nobles and wealthy merchants in the Land of Fire who had close ties with the Shimura clan. Kuragami marked a few locations that coincided with his mission route, then put the scroll away and began preparing his tools. The night passed quickly. Early the next morning, Kuragami Uchiha arrived at the Uchiha district's entrance, where Inoki Uchiha and Saito Uchiha were already waiting for him. After regrouping, the three headed toward the village gates. By the time they arrived, the rest of the mission's participants had already gathered. Though the number of people wasn't large, they had naturally formed several small groups. Two ninjas without clan backgrounds stuck together, while a ninja from the Kohari clan and one from the Midokado clan formed another pair. Hueco, who came from a minor ninja clan, stood with his lover, Yuja Yuzuki, chatting with an Inuzuka clan member while petting a large black dog. As for the two Hyuga clan members who had been assigned to this mission, they stood alone, maintaining their characteristic sense of superiority. Meanwhile, the team leader for this mission, Kakashi Hotake, sat under the eaves of a still-closed shop near the village gate, quietly reading his copy of Makeout. Chapter 24, The Uchiha clan is always generous to friends. You're really slow. Is this the level of Uchiha's ninja discipline? Before Kuragami Uchiha and his two companions could say a word upon their arrival, a jonin from the Midokado clan spoke up in a provocative tone. As his words fell, the two civilian-born ninjas who had intended to greet Kuragami suddenly froze, unsure how to react. After all, both the Uchiha and Midokado clans were forces they couldn't afford to offend, even though they themselves were at least jonin. Kuragami Uchiha glanced at the speaker with a smirk of disdain, choosing to ignore him entirely. Instead, he turned toward the two civilian ninjas, his face wearing a warm smile as he extended his hand. I'm Kuragami Uchiha. It's an honor to be working with all of you on this mission. The two civilian ninjas were a bit overwhelmed, never expecting the newly appointed clan head of the Uchiha clan, Kuragami Uchiha, who had made a name for himself during the Third Shinobi World War, to be so approachable. I'm Seiichi Nagai. Please take care of us during this mission, clan head Kuragami. I'm Ruda. With you here, I'm sure this mission will go smoothly. Not at all. Kuragami replied with a smile. Success in this mission will depend on all of us working together. Itsuki Midokado, the jonin from the Midokado clan, became visibly irritated when he realized that Kuragami and his group had completely ignored him. Didn't you hear what I said? You're late and don't even have the decency to apologize? As far as I remember, we're still within the agreed meeting time. Kuragami responded coolly while his gaze slowly turned cold. Behind him, Inoki Uchiha and Saito Uchiha instantly activated their Sharingan and locked eyes with Itsuki Midokado. Besides, Kuragami continued, the three Tomoe in his eyes slowly spinning, didn't your elders teach you the basic courtesy of respecting the strong? Kazan Yuzuka, Hueco, and Yuja Yuzuki had initially planned to greet Kuragami, but given the tense atmosphere, they chose to watch in silence instead. Meanwhile, the two members of the Hyuga clan stood with their arms crossed, observing with indifferent expressions. Alright, since everyone is here, let's move out. At this moment, Kakashi closed his book, stepped between them, and spoke calmly. Since Kakashi has spoken, let's go. Kuragami deactivated his Sharingan, and his smile returned. Despite the somewhat unpleasant first meeting, the group followed Kakashi to the village gates to complete the necessary departure procedures. Since the mission was not time-sensitive, they traveled at a steady pace. Based on intelligence reports, Orochimaru had recently been spotted near the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rice Paddies, so their route took them northward. During the journey, Kazan Yuzuka's ninja dog, Sumimaru, frequently trotted up to Kuragami's side. "You've got quite the keen nose." Kuragami chuckled as he pulled out several pieces of raw meat from a ceiling scroll and fed them to Sumimaru. After devouring the meat, Sumimaru let out a satisfied bark and even licked Kuragami's palm. "Huh? Is Sumimaru actually friendly to Uchiha? That's unusual," Kazan Yuzuka commented with surprise. Though there was no major conflict between the Yuzuka and Uchiha clans, the Yuzuka, who raised dogs, typically didn't get along well with the Uchiha, who commonly signed summoning jutsu with ninja cats. "Probably because I'm one of the few in my clan who never signed a summoning jutsu with ninko. My summon is a hawk, so I often carry raw meat, which must have caught his attention," Kuragami explained with a smile. "That makes sense." Kazan Yuzuka laughed heartily. With that small exchange, the relationship between Kuragami and Kazan Yuzuka warmed considerably. The Yuzuka were simple people, win over their dogs, and you win over them, too. Seeing this, Gecko and Yujao Yuzuki also joined in, introducing themselves to Kuragami. Over time, everyone grew more familiar with one another, even the two Hyuga members, who initially carried an air of aloofness. Thanks to Kuragami's friendly initiative, they eventually joined the conversation. Meanwhile, Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado, who had been hostile from the start, found themselves increasingly isolated. By evening, the group arrived at Danzaku town, located in the northern part of the Land of Fire. "It's getting late. Let's rest here for the night," Kakashi suggested. No one objected, so Kakashi led them to a small inn. Just then, Kuragami suddenly spoke up. "We can't get proper rest in a place like this. Humphrey, we're on a mission." "Who gave you the right to be picky?" Itsuki Midokado sneered. "If you don't like it, you might as well go home." Ignoring his provocation, Kuragami said, "Since fate has brought us together as a team, allow me to cover today's expenses." "Kakashi, as the squad leader, do you have any objections?" "Not at all," Kakashi replied without hesitation. "Good." With that, Kuragami turned and walked toward the town center. The others hesitated at first, especially the two civilian ninjas. However, seeing that Kakashi had followed Kuragami without hesitation, the rest of the group quickly caught up, leaving Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado behind. Kuragami led them to the most luxurious hot spring inn in the town, where he booked a private suite for each person. But he didn't stop there. After securing accommodations, he suggested they all go out for a proper meal. Everyone thought that Kuragami would treat everyone to a barbecue restaurant in the town at most, but unexpectedly, Kuragami took everyone directly to the most luxurious restaurant in the town, a place usually reserved for nobles and wealthy merchants of the Land of Fire. Even Kazan Yuzuka, who held a decent status in his clan, had never dined in such an extravagant venue. As for the two civilian jonin, they lived frugally, saving every ryo to buy new jutsu, so a place like this was beyond their wildest dreams. Therefore, after everyone took their seats, they were naturally a little cautious. At this time, Kuragami, who was sitting in the main seat, took the lead in raising his wine glass. "Thank you all for accepting me as a teammate. Since we're here, let's relax and enjoy ourselves." The Uchiha clan has always been generous to its friends, Kuragami said with a smile. "You know what? That's true." Kazan Yuzuka grinned, downing his drink. "I'll consider you a friend from now on." As everyone toasted, Kakashi finally spoke up. "By the way, Kuragami, aren't you underage? Breaking the 3 ninja prohibitions this early isn't a great look. You, of all people, reading smut novels every day, have no right to lecture me," Kuragami retorted. The group burst into laughter, and the atmosphere around the table became lively and warm. Chapter 25, Do you think the daimyo will believe you? After a satisfying meal and drinks, the group stepped out of the restaurant, still lively and in high spirits. The night is still young. How about we head over to the entertainment district for a few more rounds? Kuragami Uchiha suggested as he led the group. Well, since the clan head Kuragami has spoken, I suppose I have no choice but to risk my life and accompany him. Kazan Yuzuka, already slightly tipsy, laughed. The alcohol had loosened everyone up, and laughter broke out among them. Even Kaido Hyuga and Kin Hyuga, who had been reserved and serious throughout the evening, wore slightly mischievous grins. "Kuragami-sama. There are girls in the team, too, you know." Yujao Yuzuki playfully scolded. "Oh, that was indeed my oversight." Kuragami chuckled. He then pulled out a wad of cash from a ceiling scroll and roughly shoved it into Gecko's arms. Why don't you take your little girlfriend and have a nice evening in town?" "That's right, just make sure to be back before it gets too late," Rudokuramu teased. The couple blushed furiously at the laughter of the group, but Hayate still took the money. After bidding farewell, He and Hyuga went off to enjoy their night separately. As for the rest of the group, they headed toward the entertainment district. Once they had walked some distance, a shadow detached itself from the darkness of an alley. It was the real Kuragami Uchiha, who had discreetly split from the group, now heading in a completely different direction. At the Lord's Mansion in Tensaku Town, the political and gambling capital of the Land of Fire, its ruler was no ordinary man. In addition to his official noble title granted by the Fire Daimyo, Taro Yamamoto commanded a personal force of hundreds of samurai and over a dozen ninjas. His connections with various clans in Hidden Leaf Village made his position as lord as solid as a mountain. After hosting a lavish banquet that night, Taro Yamamoto, holding a beautiful woman in each arm, drunkenly stumbled into his bedroom, his face filled with lust. Tonight will be quite enjoyable. He chuckled, however, just as he stepped forward and was about to turn on the light, he noticed a figure sitting casually in an armchair by the window. The moonlight streaming through the window illuminated the figure, reflecting chillingly off the kunai he was casually wiping. The two women in his arms instinctively tried to scream, but the figure's eyes flashed red, and they instantly collapsed on the ground powerlessly. Taro Yamamoto sobered up immediately. Anyone appearing in his bedroom at this hour, holding a weapon, clearly wasn't here with good intentions. "Who are you? Why have you come here?" he asked while sweating profusely, but despite his fear, he kept backing away cautiously. "I'd suggest you stop moving." The intruder spoke in a playful tone. "If that thing behind you explodes, it won't be pretty. I can't guarantee whether you will die, but I'm sure you'll fly." Taro Yamamoto froze and turned his head slightly. To his horror, there was an explosive tag stuck to the wall just inches from his right foot. Taro Yamamoto swallowed and realized he had never been this close to death before. "If this is about money, I can." Taro Yamamoto tried to negotiate while discreetly attempting to alert his guards by knocking something over. The intruder merely smiled, watching him without interference, until Taro Yamamoto finally knocked over a large vase, the sound of breaking porcelain echoing through the room. But the guards never came. "Waiting for your samurai and ninja." The man by the window finally spoke, slowly standing up and approaching him. His footsteps were light, but to Taro Yamamoto, they sounded like the footsteps of death itself. 2 jonin from the Shimura clan, 12 rebel ninjas, and 271 samurai. It did take a little effort to deal with them. The intruder mused while standing right next to him now. Then, the intruder reached out to help him turn on the light in the room. Under the warm glow, the intruder's face became visible, sharp, and handsome, with a blood-red pupil spinning with 3 tomoe. Taro Yamamoto's pupil shrank in recognition. "Uchiha. Good observation." Kuragami Uchiha smirked while tapping Taro Yamamoto's chubby face with the side of his kunai. "As a ninja of Hidden Leaf Village, aren't you breaking the rules by doing this?" Taro Yamamoto regained some composure upon realizing he was dealing with a Hidden Leaf Village ninja. After all, attacking a noble of the Land of Fire was a crime punishable by death. "Rules?" Kuragami chuckled. "Let's talk about rules, then. For the past 4 years, you have provided financial aid totaling 1.8 billion ryo to Danzo Shimura and his criminal organization, attempting to support his bid for control over the military forces of the Land of Fire. Now, tell me, what do you think will happen if Daimyo learns of this?" Taro Yamamoto's eyes widened in shock. "Nonsense. I merely hired some bodyguards," he protested. And it was true, he had paid the Shimura clan handsomely for security and the occasional dirty work. But he had never once harbored ambitions of controlling Hidden Leaf Village. "Just bodyguards? Well, let's see if Daimyo believes that." Kuragami's smirk widened. "What do you want?" Taro Yamamoto took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I personally believe in your loyalty to the Daimyo," Kuragami said, casually twirling his kunai like a butterfly. "But you know how our Daimyo can be, he is rather suspicious by nature. So, do you still want to talk about rules? Please, keep this a secret for me. I will be forever grateful." Taro Yamamoto begged, his resolve crumbling under the pressure. Kuragami frowned while feigning disappointment. "Do you take me for a mere extortionist?" Yes. I was wrong. Please, have mercy and spare my life." Taro Yamamoto finally broke down and knelt on the floor while bowing repeatedly. Kuragami watched him for a moment before finally speaking. "I must say, you've built quite a profitable operation in Tensaku Town. Tell me, just how much revenue does this place generate per month?" Chapter 26, Kakashi's Inquiry. "We're all doing legal business here, nothing that makes a huge fortune. Our monthly revenue is around 70 to 80 million ryo." Taro Yamamoto said with a forced smile upon hearing Kuragami Uchiha's words. In response, a kunai suddenly embedded itself into the ground between his legs. With loan interests and other sources included, during good times, it's about 400 million ryo per month. Taro Yamamoto immediately confessed, Realizing it was best to be honest before the next kunai went straight for his head. "You're running quite the business, Taro-sama," Kuragami Uchiha said while twirling a new kunai and using its tip to lift Taro Yamamoto's triple-layered fat chin. "The Uchiha clan has some extra funds lately and would like to invest in your business. What do you think of that, Taro-sama?" "Having the Uchiha clan as investors would be my honor, my lord." "How much do you intend to invest?" Taro Yamamoto asked, forcing another smile. "Invest?" Kuragami Uchiha chuckled, then suddenly stabbed his kunai into the ground at Taro Yamamoto's feet. "This is Uchiha's investment. Is it enough?" "Yes. Yes. It's enough." Taro Yamamoto nodded frantically. "The Uchiha will take 70% of all revenue." This? "Yes. Yes. Yes." Taro Yamamoto nodded even harder. "Don't pull that face. The Uchiha are far stronger than the Shimura. As your protectors, we're well worth the price," Kuragami Uchiha said, helping Taro Yamamoto to his feet with a smile. I understand. But, my lord, what about the daimyo? Taro-sama, in the face of a rebel ninja like Danzo Shimura, who is attempting a military coup, you, being a man of great integrity and loyalty to the daimyo, have wisely decided to join forces with the Uchiha clan to thwart his treacherous schemes. How does that sound? Kuragami Uchiha said with a smile. Yes, that is exactly what happened. I always knew the Shimura clan had treasonous ambitions. Taro Yamamoto quickly agreed. Then sign here and leave your fingerprint. Kuragami Uchiha said, pulling out a document from a sealing scroll and placing it in front of Taro Yamamoto. Upon taking a closer look, Taro Yamamoto saw that the document contained a detailed list of the crimes committed by the Shimura clan, along with evidence implicating members of the Midokado and Uchiha clans. My lord. Must I sign this? Taro Yamamoto swallowed hard. He knew that once he put his name on this, he would be completely severing ties with those three clans. What do you think? Kuragami Uchiha raised an eyebrow, his smile warm and unwavering. All right. I'll sign. Taro Yamamoto said, his hand trembling as he signed his name and pressed his fingerprint onto the document. Kuragami Uchiha nodded in satisfaction and put away his kunai. Under Taro Yamamoto's voluntary guidance, they went to the castle's treasury, where Kuragami Uchiha took exactly 70% of the wealth. He was a man of his word, he said 70%, and he only took 70%. Even so, the 20 billion ryo in cash completely filled up the 15 sealing scrolls he had brought with him. It seems like dealing with these financial tycoons requires an iron fist. As he left, Kuragami Uchiha couldn't help but think to himself. When Kuragami Uchiha returned to the inn, everyone had already wrapped up their evening gathering. After entering his room through the window, he found an unexpected visitor sitting on his couch. Kakashi was there, reading Makeout. Without looking up, he calmly said, "You're back. When did you realize that the me following you guys was a shadow clone?" Kuragami Uchiha asked with a smile. "When we left the restaurant." Kakashi lifted his Sharingan eye slightly. "Don't forget, my Sharingan never closes." "Fair enough. So, Kakashi, what do you plan to do? Write it into the mission report?" Kuragami Uchiha asked, still smiling. "You know I wouldn't do that." Kakashi replied. "Ha ha ha." Kuragami Uchiha laughed. "Of course, I trust that Kakashi wouldn't do such a thing. So, you waited here for me. Do you have something else in mind?" Kakashi took a deep breath before seriously asking, "After our last conversation, I decided to give archery a try, but I don't know where to start. Do you have any advice?" Hearing Kakashi's question, Kuragami Uchiha felt a wave of satisfaction. Kakashi was finally on the right path. Archery emphasizes a straight body, steady breath, and a calm heart. If your posture isn't straight, your breath isn't steady, or your heart isn't calm, your arrows will naturally be off target. Kuragami Uchiha explained. For a beginner, it's a long journey of discipline and practice. Kakashi fell into thoughtful silence. Before you dive into archery training, maybe you should focus on taking care of your teacher's son first. Kuragami Uchiha added. That kid isn't exactly living the best life in the village. The death of the fourth Hokage had left his former guards adrift. Without a leader, they had faded into obscurity. Kakashi had been the most qualified person to take charge, but instead, he had drowned in his own sorrow, failing to even look after his teacher's only child. How could those people entrust their lives to him? Naruto, huh? Kakashi finally understood. Alright. After this mission, I'll apply to leave Anbu. Kuragami Uchiha smiled and nodded. Thank you for the advice. Kakashi sincerely thanks Kuragami before leaving. Once Kakashi was gone, Kuragami Uchiha took a long bath and went to sleep. The next morning, the team gathered at the city gates. Once the visibly irritated Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado arrived, they set out again. With the camaraderie built from the previous night, the group traveled without any tension. They joked and laughed, and even the two previously aloof Hyuga members loosened up. Only Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado remained isolated. Having endured the cold shoulder all day, the two finally snapped when Kuragami Uchiha once again announced he was treating everyone to dinner that evening. "I think some people have forgotten that we're on a mission," Itsuki Midokado said coldly. "All this eating and drinking. Do you think this is some kind of vacation?" At his words, the group turned to look at the two with odd expressions. "Once the mission is over, I'll be reporting your behavior to Hokage-sama," Menjin Midokado added. "Technically, you don't have the authority to write the mission report. I'm the one in charge here," Kakashi said coolly before Kuragami Uchiha could respond. "Kakashi, you..." Itsuki Midokado was caught off guard by Kakashi's bluntness. "If you don't want to be part of this mission, you can turn back now," Kazan Yuzuka said, his displeasure clear in his voice. Joking aside, if they didn't want to eat, that was fine, but trying to stop everyone from eating? That was just absurd. Chapter 27, A Toast to the Third Hokage. By the way, inviting everyone for a meal was just the clan head Kuragami's personal act, right? It doesn't affect the mission, does it? At this moment, Ken Hyuga also stood on Kuragami Uchiha's side. Hi-8 Gecko and Yuja Yuzuki, along with the two civilian-born ninjas, remained silent due to the clans backing them. However, their choice to stand beside Kuragami Uchiha was already a silent declaration of support. In just one night, some had become the targets of bullying. And the instigators of all this had remained silent the entire time. After the initial confrontation, the group entered the town. Tsugumi Itsuki and Menjin Midokado, seemingly out of spite, stormed off without a word, heading straight for the inn where most mission-bound ninjas stayed. Meanwhile, Kuragami Uchiha led the others to another round of feasting. Speaking of which, do we really ignore them? What about the mission? Rudokuramu, one of the four jonin on this mission, was still a little worried and couldn't help but ask after finishing a glass of wine at the table. "Relax, Ruda." Seiichi Nagai, the eldest among them, showed a knowing smile and said. "We're dealing with Orochimaru here, one of the legendary Sannin. Whether those two come or not makes no difference. When things get serious, it'll be up to the clan head Kuragami and Captain Kakashi. Our role is just to assist. Haven't you noticed that even the Inuzuka and Hyuga clans have no objections? I appreciate clan head Kuragami's generosity, allowing us to enjoy the finest food from all across the land of fire, even while on a mission. I propose a toast to clan head Kuragami," Seiichi Nagai declared while raising his cup enthusiastically. "Seiichi-san, there's no need for such formalities. This is merely what I should do," Kuragami Uchiha said, lifting his cup with a smile. "When I was just an academy student, I basked in the radiance of the will of fire spread by the third Hokage. Helping you all is simply a reflection of that very will of fire. If gratitude must be given, it should be to our third Hokage and the will of fire itself. Clan head Kuragami is absolutely right. My thinking was too shallow," Seiichi Nagai admitted. "In fact, with your profound understanding of the will of fire, I'd say you're practically the embodiment of the third Hokage himself." "Oh?" Kuragami Uchiha chuckled. "Now that's an interesting thought. Actually, you might not be too far off. I am, indeed, an embodiment. If we accomplish great things on this mission and earn merit, we must not forget the third Hokage and the will of fire. Everyone, let's toast to the third Hokage. To the will of fire," Kuragami Uchiha declared, raising his cup high before downing his drink in one go. "To the third Hokage. To the will of fire." The others echoed, their spirits lifted. Even the youngest, Hi-8 Gecko and Yuja Yuzuki felt their blood boil with enthusiasm as they emptied their cups. The atmosphere grew increasingly lively after several rounds of drinks. Compared to the night before, the group had grown more familiar, and now, intoxication loosened their tongues further. Suddenly, Seiichi Nagai sighed. "Seiichi-san, what's the matter?" Kuragami Uchiha asked upon noticing. "Apologies, clan head Kuragami. I misspoke. I'll punish myself with 3 drinks," Seiichi Nagai said before pouring himself another cup. "It's just that drinking like this reminds me of my disappointing son." "Seiichi-san, what do you mean? You're a jonin, a pillar of the village. Surely, your son must be quite talented as well?" Kuragami Uchiha remarked. "If only that were true." Seiichi Nagai sighed. "I may have been lucky enough to become a jonin, but all of my jutsu were acquired through the village's exchange system. As you know, while the village doesn't mind if jonin passes a few basic jutsu to their relatives or students, my son inherited the chakra nature of his late mother, who passed away 6 years ago. I want to teach him, but I simply don't have the ability. If he graduates next year and doesn't get assigned a good team leader, what will become of him? Forget it, no need to dampen the mood. Seiichi Nagai said, waving his hand. I'll drink another as an apology for bringing up such worries. There's no need to apologize. Kuragami Uchiha assured him. Caring for one's son is only natural. Your son is fortunate to have a father like you. As he spoke, information about Seiichi Nagai surfaced in Kuragami Uchiha's mind. Seiichi Nagai ninja number 009841, Seiichi Nagai, mission record, D rank, 472 C rank, 617 B rank, 391 A rank, 122 S rank, 4 background, promoted to Jonin during the Third Shinobi World War. Skilled in water style, but due to limited talent, ranks among the weaker Jonin in Hidden Leaf Village. A civilian-born ninja with little room for further advancement. His most likely fate? Dying on some dangerous future mission or voluntarily retiring. But clearly, this man wasn't content with that. He had sensed the growing power of the Uchiha clan and saw an opportunity, a chance to gamble on a better future. Seiichi-san, have you ever considered letting your son join the Hidden Leaf Village military police force? Kuragami Uchiha suggested. The department recently recruited some new members, but the next year, after the academy graduates, we're likely to expand again. If your son is interested, I can ask Captain Fugaku to keep an eye out. Really? Seiichi Nagai's eyes lit up. That would be great. Thank you, clan head Uchiha. This drink is on me. He downed another cup of sake, and Kazan Yuzuka laughed. Seiichi-san, you've just secured a bright future for your son. The Hidden Leaf Village military police force pays far better than regular ninja work. Even some kids from my clan want in. Oh? Then why haven't I seen any in Yuzukan applications? Kuragami Uchiha asked curiously. Our elders won't allow it. Kazan Yuzuka admitted. Our clan originally followed the Senju, so relations with the Uchiha have never been great. Plus, since most of our people use ninja hounds, and your clan prefers summoning ninko, those kids got a good beating when they brought it up, so they dropped the idea. That being said, our clan head is considering selling a batch of our newly bred police dogs to the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. After all, when it comes to tracking criminals, ninja hounds are far more useful than ninko, don't you think? Chapter 28, Orochimaru's whereabouts. Upon hearing Kazan Yuzuka's words, Kuragami Uchiha took it seriously. This was the first ninja clan to proactively show goodwill toward the Uchiha. It seemed that after the former powerhouse, the Senju clan, had been reduced to its current state in the village, the Yuzuka clan, who had long served as Hidden Leaf Village's veterinarians and struggled to enter the village's power center, had also begun to harbor certain thoughts. However, out of caution, they had yet to take a definitive stance. Still, for an elite jonin like Kazan Yuzuka to bring this matter up to Kuragami Uchiha personally was a clear indication of goodwill. The Yuzuka clan wasn't like the Uchiha, who had dozens of jonin and could fill several rows of seats during a clan meeting. Within the Yuzuka clan, Kazan Yuzuka's status was likely second only to their clan head. This information from Brother Kaz truly resolves an urgent problem for our Hidden Leaf Village military police force. Kuragami Uchiha said. The new recruits we've taken in haven't fully developed their strength yet, so having support from the Yuzuka clan's ninja hounds would be a tremendous help. Kuragami Uchiha was naturally pleased to accept the goodwill of the Yuzuka clan. The Uchiha had yet to officially step into the spotlight, and the fact that the Yuzuka were already showing such an attitude was a delightful surprise. This show of goodwill marked a promising beginning. Speaking of which, the benefits at the Hidden Leaf Village military police force are really enviable. Yujao Yuzuki suddenly said. After hearing about the perks, I even considered resigning from the Anbu to join you guys. Sister Yujao, you mustn't think like that. Kuragami Uchiha said sternly. No matter where we work, we all serve Hidden Leaf Village. If the third Hokage heard you, he might think I'm forming a faction for personal gain. Oh, come on, I was just joking. Yujao stuck out her tongue playfully. I worked so hard to make it into a special jonin in the Anbu. There's no way I'd quit now. Alright, enough of that. Come on, everyone, cheers. Kuragami Uchiha raised his glass, clinking it with the others before downing his drink. Throughout the meal, Kakashi, who sat beside Kuragami Uchiha, remained silent. However, his eyes closely observed everything happening at the table, lost in thought. After drinking their fill, everyone returned to the inn. The next morning, they set off once again. This time, however, no one exchanged even the most basic pleasantries with Itsuki Mitokado and Menjin Mitokado. At noon, the group arrived at the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rice Paddies. Before proceeding to their designated target area, Kakashi, as the leader, began to fulfill his duties. Kazan Yuzuka, you and Sumimaru will track the scent. Ken Hyuga and Kaihito Hyuga, you two keep an eye on the surroundings. One of you must always have your Byakugan active at all times. The rest of you, prepare for battle. Understood. Even Kuragami, along with the others, nodded in agreement. Not even the now estranged Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado objected. Inside Orochimaru's experimental base in the land of rice paddies. As if sensing something, Orochimaru set down the test tube he was holding. Although he was still working under the Akatsuki now and had not yet conceived the idea of founding the village hidden in the sound, he had already established a secret laboratory here. The land of rice paddies, being a small nation caught between greater powers and lacking an ninja village, was essentially a lawless zone for powerful ninjas like him. Even though Orochimaru had defected from the village, he had still left behind certain informants within Hidden Leaf Village. He was well aware of the recent changes in the village, particularly the death of Danzo, his former collaborator, and the major moves Kuragami Uchiha had been making lately. His spies had already informed him the moment the pursuit squad set out from Hidden Leaf Village. Not wanting to invite unnecessary trouble, Orochimaru's first instinct was to flee. However, upon learning that the squad included Kuragami Uchiha who had awakened the Mangekyō Sharingan, Orochimaru became intrigued and decided to test the other party. At this stage, Orochimaru was not yet obsessed with the Uchiha Kakagenkai, but the Mangekyō Sharingan was still the legendary eye once possessed by Madara Uchiha. As a scientist at heart, Orochimaru's curiosity was naturally piqued. While the squad was searching the area, Sumimaru suddenly tensed up and growled. At the same time, Kaihito Hyuga noticed something and shouted, "Chakra reaction underground. A massive entity is approaching from the west, it's a snake. Prepare for battle." Kakashi shouted, assuming a combat stance. "Watch out below." Kaihito Hyuga warned before grabbing Ken Hyuga and leaping away. At that moment, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Several giant white serpents burst forth, their crimson mouths opening wide to devour them. The targeted ninjas reacted swiftly. They leaped high into the air and countered with their respective jutsus. Kazan Yuzuka immediately merged with Sumimaru, activating his clan's hidden jutsu to transform into a massive two-headed dog and evade the assault. Inoki Uchiha and Saito Uchiha each fired kunai attached to wires toward the surrounding trees, changing direction mid-air before forming hand seals. The next second, the fierce dragon flame jutsu shot forth, striking the snakes below. Seiichi Nagai, while looking a bit disheveled, managed to escape using a water clone jutsu at the last moment. However, the special jonin among them reacted slightly slower and found themselves in peril. Just as they were about to be devoured, a streak of blue lightning flashed through the battlefield. In an instant, Kuragami Uchiha, enveloped in his lightning-style chakra mode, moved like a phantom and rescued them, carrying them to safety in the blink of an eye. Unfortunately, Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado, who had distanced themselves from the group due to their strained relations, were not as lucky. The attackers had intentionally targeted those who were isolated. 4 massive summoned snakes emerged from underground to assault them. Caught off guard and reacting a split second too late, Itsuki Midokado barely survived the ambush, but his entire right arm was torn off. Menjin Midokado, a mere special jonin, was not as fortunate, and he was devoured whole. Before they had time to process what had just happened, a massive silhouette emerged from the dust of the collapsed trees to the west. Through the swirling smoke, the outline of a colossal serpent, towering dozens of meters high, began to take shape. Chapter 29, A Solo Battle Against Orochimaru. Hidden Leaf Village Ninja, long time no see. As the dust gradually settled, a massive purple serpent coiled its body, preparing to strike. Atop its enormous head stood Orochimaru, clad in his red cloud-patterned robe, looking down at the group below with an air of superiority. Orochimaru. The presence of his summoning beast, Manda, exerted immense pressure on everyone, and every special jonin present had already begun to sweat, while the jonin, like Seiichi Nagai and Kazan Yuzuka, remained outwardly composed. However, the sheer size of Manda made them wary. Orochimaru, are these the sacrifices for today? Manda's eerie, slit-pupilled eyes fixated on the group as it spoke. This doesn't seem enough. Inika, Saito, take everyone and retreat. Leave this to me. Kuragami Uchiha commanded. The 3 tomoe in his Sharingan spun slowly as arcs of lightning flickered around his body. Kakashi, make sure they're safe. Kakashi lowered his mask, revealing his Sharingan. Are you sure you can handle this alone? Kuragami Uchiha burst into laughter as he rapidly formed hand seals. Do you know why, during the Third Shinobi World War, I always completed my mission solo? Lightning style, Thunder Dragon Jutsu. A surge of violent lightning chakra erupted around him, forcing Kakashi to quickly pull back with his teammates. Within mere moments, Kuragami was enveloped in a sea of electric currents, crackling and surging like a raging tide. At the center of the storm, he looked like a god descending upon the battlefield. Everyone suddenly recalled his legendary feat in the Third Shinobi World War, single-handedly annihilating 15 elite Hidden Mist Village ninja squads and earning the title of Blue Thunder Kuragami. His devastating large-scale lightning-style jutsus had made him infamous. In this situation, staying near him would only hinder him from going all out. This chakra level. It's absurd. As Kakashi continued to lead the retreat, he couldn't help but gape at the sight before him. He had only heard rumors of Kuragami's power, as they had fought on different battlefields, but witnessing it firsthand made him envious. Among the ninja he had encountered, only his late master's wife, the Jinchuriki of the Ninetales, had chakra reserves that could outright surpass Kuragami's. At the heart of the storm, Kuragami let out a low roar. A massive, azure dragon made entirely of lightning erupted from the maelstrom, surging toward Orochimaru with terrifying speed. Ancient trees in its path were instantly reduced to charred husks, blackened by the intense electricity. Even Manda, with its immense size, showed a flicker of fear in its eyes. Orochimaru. What have you provoked? After all these years, your strength has grown even further, Kuragami-kun. Orochimaru, standing atop Manda's head, narrowed his eyes. To be able to unleash such a devastating jutsu so casually, only his former teacher, the third Hokage in his prime, had accomplished something similar. In other words, Kuragami Uchiha was now on par with Hiruzen at his peak. And that wasn't even accounting for his Mangekyō Sharingan, which he hadn't yet revealed. Realizing the futility of keeping Mandan on the battlefield, Orochimaru dispelled the summoning jutsu. Against an opponent who specialized in wide-scale destructive jutsu, a giant summon beast would only be a massive target. As soon as he landed, he bit his thumb and slammed his hand onto the ground. Summoning, Triple Rashomon. 3 massive demonic gates burst from the earth, forming a towering barrier between him and the incoming lightning dragon. The instant they collided, a deafening explosion sent shockwaves in all directions, obliterating everything in its path. Even though Kakashi and the others had retreated several hundred meters, the impact was so strong that it made them stagger. As for Atsuki Mitakato, who had already lost an arm and had no one helping him retreat, he was directly flung into the air, crashing dozens of meters away. He coughed up a mouthful of blood before losing consciousness. Damn. Seiichi Nagai swallowed hard. It was hard to believe that the man causing all this destruction was the same person he had been drinking with the night before. Is your clan head always this overpowered? Ken Hyuga asked in disbelief while looking at Saito Uchiha, who had helped cover his retreat. Of course. Our clan head is the strongest Uchiha. Saito's eyes gleamed with admiration. Ken. Stop chatting. Look at the situation at the center of the explosion. Kakashi reminded him loudly at this time. Ken quickly came to his senses, activated his Byakugan, and focused on the battlefield. Clan head Kuragami is charging at Orochimaru. They've engaged in close combat. Although the Triple Rashomon had weakened the attack, the sheer force of the explosion had still forced Orochimaru back. Seizing the opportunity, Kuragami drew his blade, Swift Thunder, and dashed forward like lightning. Orochimaru, unfazed, drew his sword of Kusanagi, and within moments, their blades clashed multiple times. Despite his mastery of Kenjutsu, Orochimaru found himself struggling. Kuragami's speed was too fast, and his every strike was aimed directly at vital points. A jutsu similar to the lightning-style chakra mode used by the Hidden Clouds village ninja. Orochimaru thought. This is troublesome. Kuragami, meanwhile, frowned slightly. Orochimaru's body modifications allowed him to bend and contort unnaturally, making it difficult to land a clean hit. After another rapid exchange, they split apart. So this is the power of the Uchiha clan? It's indeed terrifying, as the rumor says. Orochimaru ran his long tongue across his lips. You're not bad yourself, Orochimaru. As expected of one of the legendary Sannin. Kuragami smirked. I've heard rumors that you possess the same Mangekyō Sharingan as Madara Uchiha. Orochimaru said with intrigue. Would you care to show me? A confident grin spread across Kuragami's face. If you have the strength to make me use it, then by all means, try. The azure lightning surrounding him flared violently as he charged toward Orochimaru once more. Chapter 30, Koto Umatsukami. The two opponents sheathed their blades after speaking and began forming hand seals. Earth-style, dark swamp. The ground around Kuragami Uchiha liquefied into a swamp under the influence of chakra. Within it, countless venomous snakes slithered ominously, converging toward the center where Kuragami stood. Myriad lightning snake prison. Facing the tens of thousands of venomous snakes, Kuragami Uchiha remained calm and completed his final hand seal. In an instant, a raging sea of lightning reappeared, thick lightning pillars, as wide as a human thigh, crackled and danced like silver snakes. Every snake caught in their path was instantly reduced to ashes. The remaining ones, lingering on the edges, revealed fear in their reptilian eyes. Though these creatures had been bred by Orochimaru with considerable intelligence, their instincts as living beings overpowered them when confronted with such a catastrophic force. As the surviving snakes hesitated, the lightning around Kuragami began to gather. A towering figure resembling an enraged Vajra erupted from the ground, standing dozens of meters tall. Lightning style, immovable king. The lightning began to converge and compress into the Vajra's massive pestle. The pestle formed by condensation of chakra actually had a real texture at this moment. One can imagine how terrifying the energy contained was. Step back. Kakashi shouted as he sensed the terrifying surge of chakra. During the Nine Tails Rebellion 6 years ago, the tailed beast bull probably had a similar level of destructive power. Kuragami Uchiha raised his hand and clenched his fist. The massive Vajra above him hurled the Vajra pestle toward Orochimaru. In an instant, thunder roared, and Orochimaru attempted to counter with a wind-style defense jutsu. However, within a radius of several hundred meters, everything was engulfed by the overwhelming explosion. The immensely compressed lightning, upon release, unleashed pure, unrestrained energy, obliterating everything in its range. When the dust settled, only the mutilated corpse of a giant snake remained. Kuragami Uchiha walked toward the carcass. He had no doubt Orochimaru survived the attack. After all, this was the hardest man to kill in the shinobi world. Sure enough, just as he expected, the seemingly lifeless serpent corpse began to squirm, and Orochimaru emerged from the charred snake's mouth. Even his robes were intact. However, the Akatsuki organization's robe, which had a red cloud pattern, had been soaked with viscous liquid. So this is the power of the Uchiha clan, Kuragami-kun? Orochimaru licked the slime off his face with his serpent-like tongue. After unleashing such a jutsu, I assume your chakra must be nearly depleted? And so what? Kuragami frowned slightly. Even in a world where killing was second nature, the grotesque sight before him was somewhat revolting. In the original timeline, it was Itachi Uchiha who sparked Orochimaru's obsession with Uchiha's bodies. But now, Kuragami has taken on that role. Orochimaru's expression turned twisted with desire. He could hardly wait to claim Kuragami's body for himself. Orochimaru's neck suddenly stretched out, and his entire head flew towards Kuragami Uchiha. As long as I can plant the curse mark, this body will be mine. Just then, a sharp cry echoed through the sky as the hawk's piercing screech rang out. A primal fear, etched into the genes of all snakes, surged within Orochimaru. His head snapped upward, his eyes locking onto the descending hawk and the pair of crimson eyes it possessed. Those are the Mangekyō Sharingan? Ultimate Genjutsu, Koto Amatsukami, activated. A surge of chakra imprinted an eternal seal of absolute loyalty to Kuragami Uchiha onto Orochimaru's very soul. Orochimaru's eyes instantly became clear and then clouded. Kuragami stepped forward, unsheathed his sword, and beheaded Orochimaru in a single stroke. It was only at this moment that Kakashi and the others finally arrived. Is it over? Ken Hyuga exhaled a long breath as he looked at Orochimaru's severed head and body. As expected of the clan head Kuragami, even a long-established ninja like Orochimaru was no match for him. Seiichi Nagai sighed in admiration. No. I don't think it's that simple. Kakashi's brows furrowed as he stared at Orochimaru's corpse. Before their eyes, the relatively intact body of Orochimaru began to dissolve into ashes, dispersing with the wind. What is this? Kazan Yuzuka frowned. He's probably not dead yet. Kuragami Uchiha sighed as he sheathed his sword. Damn it. He still managed to escape. No need to be so hard on yourself. Kakashi remarked. That guy survived years of being hunted by the village, he naturally has his ways. Kaz, have Tsunomaru track his scent. That bastard must have a base nearby. Once I recover some chakra, we'll storm the place together. Kuragami instructed. Meanwhile, 20 kilometers away, inside Orochimaru's hideout, a large containment pod held a body that suddenly opened its eyes, revealing the curse mark inscribed on its skin. The glass shattered, and the figure stepped out, its face slowly morphing into that of Orochimaru. After dressing himself, the newly reborn Orochimaru immediately began modifying his laboratory. 2 hours later, after restoring his chakra, Kuragami Uchiha and his team followed Tsunomaru's lead to an underground base. There's no one inside. Kaido Hyuga reported after scanning the area with his Byakugan. Looks like he already ran. Kakashi noted. Let's go in and check, we might find something useful. As they ventured into the hideout, the gruesome remnants of human experimentation became evident. Even though they were battle-hardened ninja, some of the sights within made their stomachs churn. The only female ninja in their squad, Yuja Yuzuki, covered her mouth, struggling to hold back her nausea. That bastard. He really has no humanity. Kazan Yuzuki growled through gritted teeth. Search for clues. Kakashi ordered. Everyone began combing through the hideout for useful information. While comforting his shaken girlfriend, Hueco noticed a pile of scattered documents. After picking one up, his pupil shrank in horror. The document detailed how Danzo's root had abducted children from minor clans within the village and delivered them to Orochimaru as experimental subjects. Even members of the Uchiha and Mikado clans also have some traces of it. Suddenly, Hyuga recalled a young cousin in his clan who had mysteriously vanished years ago at the age of 4, and his blood ran cold. Just as he was about to speak, Kuragami Uchiha appeared beside him, pressed a hand against his shoulder, and subtly shook his head, signaling him to remain silent. Chapter 31, Mission complete. On the other hand, Kakashi discovered something similar, and he immediately shouted, "Stop right now!" However, his warning came a bit too late. Most of the team members had already found similar things. After regrouping, everyone's expressions flickered with uncertainty, making Kakashi fall silent. "Let's all pretend we didn't see any of this." Kuragami Uchiha finally spoke after a long pause. "Clan head. But here, there's..." Uchiha hurriedly interjected. What he had discovered were the detailed records of Orochimaru and Danzo's collaboration during the Third Shinobi World War, documenting their hunt and slaughter of Uchiha clan members to harvest Sharingan. "Shut up!" Kuragami Uchiha roared. "Getting involved in this will do you no good." After reprimanding Uchiha, he looked at the rest of the team with a solemn expression. "These things were discovered by me and Kakashi. The two of us will report directly to the third Hokage. As for the rest of you, you saw nothing. Understood?" "Understood, understood." Seiichi Nagai and Ritokuramu quickly nodded. Unlike the others, they had no powerful clans backing them. If they got tangled up in this matter, they might not even survive the next day. "We saw nothing." Kaido Hyuga echoed. As a branch member of the Hyuga clan, getting involved in something this big could mean immediate elimination by the main branch to avoid trouble. Kazan Yuzuka was even more direct. He stuffed the documents he had collected into Kuragami Uchiha's hands. Even for the Yuzuka clan, getting entangled in his mess would be disastrous. Kakashi let out a long sigh. Given the situation, handling this matter as Kuragami Uchiha suggested was the safest approach. "Kakashi, here's how we'll write the mission report. After discovering Orochimaru's whereabouts, we engaged in a brief skirmish. Due to Orochimaru's large-scale destructive jutsu, everyone except the two of us sustained injuries. By the way, where are those two? Menjin Mikado died right from the start. As for Itsuki Mikado, he was probably caught in the crossfire between you and Orochimaru's jutsu." Kazan Yuzuka replied. "That's unfortunate." Kuragami Uchiha made a brief remark on their deaths before continuing. "As the only two still capable of fighting, we pursued Orochimaru to this location, but he managed to escape using an escape jutsu. That's when we discovered all of this. Is this really okay? We didn't contribute much to the fight. Wouldn't we be taking credit for your achievements, clan head Kuragami?" Yuja Yuzuki hesitated. "That doesn't matter." Kuragami Uchiha said. "I don't need the credit, but you all can't afford the trouble. Alright, I'll write the report that way. But you all must be careful not to let anything slip," Kakashi said, ignoring Yuja Yuzuki's doubts. Seiichi Nagai and Ritokuramu now looked at Kuragami Uchiha with completely different eyes. What kind of member had they encountered on this mission? Not only was he willing to share credit, but he also took on the heaviest burden without hesitation. From this moment on, if anyone dared to speak ill of the Uchiha clan, the two of them would fight the other party to defend the Uchiha clan's honor. At the same time, Kazan Yuzuka studied Kuragami Uchiha, his eyes gleaming with something special. "Alright, don't be so tense. Go outside and properly bury those human experiment victims. Kakashi and I will handle things here," Kuragami Uchiha said, relaxing his tone. "Once we're done, we'll return to the village. To celebrate the successful completion of our mission, dinner's on me tonight." Hearing this, everyone finally let out a breath of relief and left to handle the bodies outside. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Kuragami Uchiha gathered the evidence from the lab. "What are you planning to do?" Kakashi asked once they had nearly finished. "Of course, I'll report it to the third Hokage, and under his wise leadership, we eradicate the village's darkness in the name of the Will of Fire." Kuragami Uchiha replied without even looking up. "Kakashi. So even now, I can't get a single honest word from you?" Kakashi said coldly. You want the truth? Kuragami Uchiha's lips curled into a faint smile. Then that means you've made a choice. I just want to know the truth about my father's incident, Kakashi stated. Kuragami Uchiha nodded. That's enough. The truth is, I'll use this evidence to slowly bring down the Shimura, Utatane, and Midokado clan. And then take their place. Kakashi's pupils contracted. He knew that Kuragami Uchiha still wasn't telling him everything. After all, there was one more clan that had risen to power alongside those three under the third Hokage's rule, the Sarutobi clan. If Kuragami Uchiha planned to eliminate the other three and take their place, what would happen to the Sarutobi clan? Noticing Kakashi's expression, Kuragami Uchiha grinned and patted his shoulder. Kakashi, if you want to master the way of the bow, you still have much to learn. Without waiting for a response, Kuragami Uchiha gathered the incriminating evidence from Orochimaru's base and walked outside. Once everything was done, Uchiha and Saito Uchiha unleashed two powerful fire-style jutsu, reducing Orochimaru's base to ashes in a raging inferno. Only after the flames died down did the team finally set out on their return journey. They traveled in silence until deep into the night, when they arrived back in town. Kuragami Uchiha led them to the restaurant where they had dined and drank before, ordering a lavish feast. After several rounds of alcohol, the team finally began to relax. Taking advantage of his slight intoxication, Rukongai raised his cup. Everyone, I say, we should toast clan head Kuragami. We all made it back safely, thanks to him. Exactly. Seiichi Nagai joined in, lifting his own cup. The village always spreads bad rumors about the Uchiha, but after this mission, we've seen their true character. Especially clan head Kuragami, he's simply. Seiichi Nagai gave a big thumbs up. No need for so many words. A toast to clan head Kuragami. Ken Hyuga also raised his glass. Hey, didn't I already say? We only succeeded because of everyone's efforts. Kuragami Uchiha waved his hand dismissively but still lifted his glass and downed it with the others. Kuragami is right. This mission was a success because of everyone's contributions. Kakashi said after finishing his drink. Once we return, I'll make sure to put in a good word for you all with Hokage-sama. Seeing this, Kuragami Uchiha smiled in satisfaction. At this moment, though Kakashi still seemed somewhat clumsy in handling such situations, he was finally beginning to understand things. Chapter 32, Future Arrangements. After finishing their meal, everyone returned to the inn to rest. The events of the day had left them physically and mentally exhausted, and they quickly fell into a deep sleep once they lay down. Kuragami Uchiha, however, sat by the window at a small table in his hotel room, slowly sipping a pot of freshly brewed tea. In the middle of the night, a white snake slithered into the room, illuminated by the moonlight. I apologize for keeping you waiting, Kuragami-sama. The white snake transformed into human form with a puff of smoke. It was none other than Orochimaru. Sit. Kuragami gestured toward the seat across from him, pouring a cup of tea for Orochimaru. You did well. In such a short time, you managed to fabricate enough convincing evidence. You've worked hard. Kuragami Uchiha remarked. Serving you is my honor. Orochimaru replied humbly. Looking at the obedient and well-behaved Orochimaru in front of him, Kuragami Uchiha couldn't help but marvel at the terrifying power of Shizue's Mangekyō Sharingan. The most terrifying aspect of Koto Umatsukami wasn't direct mind control but the fact that it implanted an unshakable thought into the target's subconscious. To the affected person, everything would seem perfectly natural and logical. This was why Shizue's left eye required a 10-year cool down, it was simply too powerful. In contrast, the right eye's ability, which allowed him to cast Genjutsu without needing eye contact, seemed almost insignificant. Of course, Kuragami Uchiha will not take it completely lightly. In the original timeline, high-intelligence individuals like Shikamaru eventually detected an even more powerful Genjutsu jutsu. It was only a matter of time before Orochimaru realized he had been manipulated. After all, one could question Orochimaru's morality or even his strength, but never his intelligence. That being said, Kuragami Uchiha never intended to enslave Orochimaru forever using a single Genjutsu. He merely wanted to secure the unwavering loyalty of a top-tier scientific mind for a limited time. His future power growth would heavily depend on Orochimaru's technology and network. Kuragami Uchiha had assessed his current strength. Without considering his Mangekyō abilities, he could rank slightly above mid-tier Kage level, thanks to his Susanoo, lightning style, and swordsmanship. His right eye's ability was highly effective against Genjutsu users, while his left eye's 80 calamities Amaterasu gave him the ability to fight opponents stronger than himself or multiple enemies at once, though at the cost of possibly going blind afterward. To achieve his goals, he knew he had to overcome a major hurdle, Jiraiya, With Sage Mode and the support of the two great Sage Toads, Jiraiya was undoubtedly stronger than Kuragami in his current state. More importantly, Kuragami Uchiha had no surviving blood relatives. Without a compatible Mangekyō, he couldn't evolve his eyes into the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan. In other words, he had already reached the limits of the Uchiha clan's traditional path to power. The shinobi world was ultimately a realm of the extraordinary, and his current strength wasn't enough to pull off a coup or handle the aftermath. If he wanted to grow stronger, he had only two paths left, transplanting Hashirama's cells or mastering Sage Mode. And for both of these, Orochimaru was the best possible guide. This was why he had willingly taken on this mission and why, during his battle with Orochimaru, he had used large-scale ninjutsu without concern for chakra consumption to clear the battlefield and secure Orochimaru's cooperation. As for having already used Kodo Umatsukami, it didn't matter. In his coup plan, Kodo Umatsukami was meant as a deterrent, not an active tool. As long as no one knew he had already used it, its mere existence remained a threat. Kuragami glanced at Orochimaru and spoke. "Did you bring the summoning jutsu for Uchi Cave?" Orochimaru nodded. After forming a hand seal, a small snake appeared on the table, opening its mouth to reveal a scroll. Orochimaru picked up the scroll, wiped off the saliva, and handed it over. Kuragami Uchiha opened it, signed his name, and instructed, "Inform Uchi Cave that I'll be visiting in a few days." "Understood, Kuragami-sama." "Anything else?" Orochimaru asked. "Grow a batch of Hashirama's cells for me. Also, keep an eye on the Akatsuki. Report any unusual activity immediately." Kuragami Uchiha ordered. "As you wish." With a nod, Orochimaru dissolved into a cloud of white smoke and vanished. The next day, due to the urgency of their mission report, the group didn't travel at a leisurely pace like before. Instead, they used chakra to move at full speed, reducing what would have been a 2-day journey to just one. By dusk, they had returned to the village, then they went straight to the Hokage's office to submit their report. Orochimaru escaped? Hiruzen Sarutobi read through Kakashi's report with a complicated expression, part of relief and regret. "Never mind. Regardless, you've all done well." Hiruzen Sarutobi shook his head and looked at everyone. "Hokage-sama, during the mission, Kakashi and I discovered some confidential information. May we report it to you privately?" Kuragami Uchiha suddenly spoke up. "Oh?" Hiruzen raised an eyebrow, assuming they had found more leads on Orochimaru. He turned toward the others, who wisely took their leave and exited the office. Once only the three of them remained, Kuragami Uchiha exchanged a glance with Kakashi before they handed over their respective documents to Hiruzen. "This." Hiruzen's expression changed the moment he glanced at the papers, and then he quickly read through the documents one by one. After finishing, he remained silent, pulling out his pipe and lighting it. The office was soon filled with swirling smoke. Once he had finished smoking, Hiruzen finally looked up. "How do you think we should handle this?" Kakashi lowered his head, hesitant to speak. Kuragami, however, took a step forward. "My opinion is simple." Kuragami Uchiha said firmly. "Give the order, Hokage-sama. The Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force and Anbu should act together to swiftly apprehend all 93 individuals involved from the 3 clans. In the village illuminated by the will of fire, there is no place for those who ruthlessly sacrifice their comrades. We must strike hard and eradicate this poison at its roots." Hiruzen took another deep drag from his pipe, filling the office with even more smoke. Just then, a sudden commotion erupted outside the Hokage's office. Chapter 33, That's My Teacher's Son. The door to the Hokage's office was violently pushed open as Koharu Utatane and Hamura Midokado stormed in with angry expressions. Hiruzen Sarutobi, seeing this, calmly gathered the documents on his desk without showing any reaction. As the two advisors entered, they immediately became furious upon noticing Kuragami's presence. "Kuragami Uchiha, why are only Itsuki Midokado and Menjin Midokado missing from this mission's return?" Kuragami glanced at the two old geezers indifferently and said flatly, "Isn't it normal for ninjas to die during missions? You were just taking personal revenge, weren't you?" Hamura was more emotional than usual. The fact that only the ninjas from the Midokado clan had died, while the two weakest civilians survived unscathed, made it hard to dismiss the suspicion that Kuragami had orchestrated this outcome. After all, they had done similar things before. "My mission report clearly states that when we encountered Orochimaru, we were ambushed by large-scale ninjutsu. Those two didn't retreat in time and died because of it." Kakashi spoke up at this moment. "As for personal revenge, that's complete nonsense. Our team got along well during the mission, and we all deeply regret their loss." Kuragami Uchiha gave Kakashi a blank stare. Kakashi had improved at an astonishing speed, even mastering the art of politics and lying with a straight face. "Kakashi, you..." Koharu hadn't expected Kakashi to step in at this moment, momentarily leaving her speechless. At that moment, Kuragami Uchiha spoke up. The advisors are certainly well informed. We've been back in the village for less than half an hour, and you two are already here. He didn't finish his sentence, leaving the rest for Hiruzen Sarutobi to infer. Enough. Hiruzen slammed his hand on the desk. Koharu, Hamura, barging into the Hokage's office without permission, you're both out of line. Hiruzen? Hamura looked at him in disbelief. It seems that the Hokage still has other matters to attend to. In that case, I'll take my leave. However, I hope the Hokage will seriously consider my suggestion. If you have any concerns, the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force is fully capable of handling this matter. Seeing that the situation had reached the right level, Kuragami Uchiha bowed and left. Once Kuragami was gone, Hiruzen looked up at the two advisors. Why are you still here? Leave. Hiruzen. Koharu wanted to say something, but Hamura tugged at her sleeve. Realizing the situation, she could only leave reluctantly. Now, only Kakashi remained in the Hokage's office. Hiruzen lit his pipe and looked up. Kakashi, do you have something else to say? Kakashi bowed respectfully and then solemnly said, Hokage-sama, I want to resign from the Anbu. Hiruzen frowned at this. Why this sudden decision, Kakashi? Kakashi took a deep breath and lowered his head. Lately, I just feel exhausted. Silence fell between them. After a long pause, Hiruzen finally spoke. And after that? What do you plan to do? I suppose I'll just take on missions like a regular ninja. Kakashi replied. And also, make up for the people I've neglected all these years because I was drowning in grief. I see. Hiruzen nodded. So, you've finally moved past your pain? Also, I would like to apply to take care of Naruto. Kakashi kept his voice as neutral as possible. Hiruzen's gaze sharpened, and the room fell silent again. After a long pause, Hiruzen spoke seriously. Kakashi, you understand Naruto's identity, don't you? There was a hint of warning in his voice. Kakashi, wanting to get close to the Jinchuriki, was already treading on dangerous ground. I understand. Kakashi lifted his head and met Hiruzen's gaze, his tone unwavering. But he is also my teacher's son. Kakashi's firm stance left Hiruzen momentarily speechless. If anyone else had made this request, he would have outright refused. However, Kakashi's reasoning was undeniable. Being the last surviving student of the fourth Hokage, it was only natural for him to bear some responsibility for Minato Namikage's orphan child. Moreover, if he outright rejected Kakashi, it might push him further away. After finishing his smoke, Hiruzen let out a heavy sigh. Fine. I originally planned for you to become Naruto's instructor after he graduated, but since you're bringing it up now, I will entrust Naruto to you. Thank you. Hearing the third Hokage's approval, Kakashi finally felt a bit relieved and nodded. Kakashi, after leaving Anbu, I want you to serve in the Jonin Corps. The village still needs you. Hiruzen added. I will follow the Hokage's orders. Kakashi responded. After returning home, Kuragami Uchiha found that his housekeeper, Keiko Uchiha, had already prepared hot bathwater for him. After bathing, he sat in his room, lit incense, and began maintaining his sword. Before long, Keiko knocked on the door. Clan head, Elder Fugaku, has came to visit. Let him in and prepare the tea set for me. Yes. Keiko left to carry out the order. A few moments later, in the reception room of Kuragami's residence, Fugaku Uchiha and Kuragami sat facing each other while Kuragami carefully prepared the tea. Please, Elder Fugaku. Kuragami offered a cup of tea. Fugaku, who had been well trained in etiquette since childhood, didn't drink immediately. Unlike Kakashi's crude ways, Fugaku performed a full tea ceremony with flawless precision before setting his cup down and speaking. I didn't expect you to have such a skill. You flatter me, Elder Fugaku. I just mess around with it when I have free time. Kuragami said with a smile. To visit at this late hour. Do you have something on your mind? How did the mission go? Fugaku asked. It went smoothly enough. Kuragami replied. We didn't manage to capture Orochimaru, but we did make some important discoveries. More importantly, all our clan members returned safely. Chapter 34, Can't afford to offend the Uchiha, but they can afford to offend you. Yes, I was actually a bit worried before. After all, your mission target this time was none other than Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. Fugaku Uchiha said with a smile. At this moment, Kuragami Uchiha took out a mission scroll he had obtained from Taro and placed it on the table. Kuragami, what is this? Fugaku asked curiously, but Kuragami simply gestured for him to open it and see for himself. Fugaku picked up one of the scrolls and injected a bit of chakra into it, and after just one glance, his expression changed. Then he looked up at Kuragami and asked, "All of this?" "It's a total of 1.5 billion ryo." Kuragami replied. "If I hadn't been in a hurry and had brought more sealing scrolls, I could have carried even more." "You're something else, Kuragami." Fugaku was pleasantly surprised. Even after covering the necessary expenses for tools and other essentials, the Uchiha clan's businesses would take several years to accumulate such an amount. Yet, Kuragami managed to bring back this much in just one trip, and from the way he talked, this was only part of it. "Tomorrow, send 2 jonin from the clan to Danzaku town. This is the payment for a long-term guard mission," Kuragami instructed. "Understood." Fugaku nodded. "How was the Hidden Leaf Village military police force while I was away?" Kuragami asked. "Overall, it went well. Thanks to the work manuals you left before leaving, the new ninja adapted quickly and can now patrol and handle duties normally," Fugaku replied. "But did something happen?" Kuragami noticed Fugaku's hesitation and asked directly. "In the past few days, complaints about patrol officers and security personnel have multiplied several times compared to before. And all of them are targeting the new civilian ninja while there hasn't been a single complaint about our original clan members," Fugaku said. "Oh?" Kuragami chuckled. "Are the new recruits not enforcing the law?" with a smile. "How could that be?" Fugaku sighed and rubbed his temples. "The Hidden Leaf Village military police force currently has 4 main squads and 28 smaller teams. Before each patrol, the leaders repeatedly emphasized the importance of smiling while enforcing the law. Just yesterday, we even held a full department meeting to stress this point. But despite all that, complaints keep increasing. Kuragami, will this affect your plan to integrate our clan into the village?" "Don't worry, Elder Fugaku. I'll handle this matter tomorrow," Kuragami said calmly. This situation was entirely within his expectations. After all, he knew the nature of the villagers too well. When the Hidden Leaf Village military police force was exclusively made up of Uchiha members, they might have restrained themselves a little due to the clan's reputation and power. But now that the civilian ninja had joined, things were different. They can't afford to offend the Uchiha, but they think they can afford to offend you. This perfectly sums up the mindset of these troublesome villagers. Kuragami was actually pleased with this outcome. First, with these civilian ninjas acting as the buffer, the Uchiha clan's public image in the village would improve significantly. Second, this civilian ninja, who was simply enforcing the law fairly but still faced malicious complaints, would inevitably harbor resentment. And when the day came that they needed to crack down on these villagers, their batons would undoubtedly hit much harder. "As long as you have a solution," Fugaku said. "Aside from this, there's also a personal matter I wanted to discuss." "Please go ahead, Elder Fugaku," Kuragami said. "I would like you to be Sasuke's teacher." "Oh?" Kuragami raised an eyebrow. "Why did you suddenly think of this?" "Sasuke is now at the age where he can officially begin his ninjutsu training. 2 days ago, I taught him the clan's standard introductory ninjutsu, the Great Fireball Jutsu," Fugaku explained. However, Sasuke's performance was far inferior to his older brothers. "Is that so?" Kuragami chuckled. He remembered when he had learned the same jutsu at the clan's private school. Among the 28 Uchiha children in his group, he was ranked 27th. For a time, he even doubted whether he was cut out to be a ninja. "But since you are a precedent in the clan, I had Sasuke test his chakra nature. His chakra attributes are fire and lightning. Then I let him try a lightning style, and his talent in lightning far surpasses his talent in fire," Fugaku said with a wry smile. Sasuke's talent for lightning style was on par with Itachi's for fire style. He only needed to read the lightning ball jutsu scroll twice before successfully creating a 1-meter-wide lightning sphere. However, their entire clan specialized in fire style. While Mikoto also had a lightning attribute, her knowledge of lightning style jutsu was limited. This made teaching Sasuke a major challenge. Fortunately, within the clan, there was someone with a similar background, Kuragami Uchiha. As the former clan head, Fugaku was well aware of Kuragami's history. Back when Kuragami was in the academy, his performance was decent, thanks to his natural Uchiha talent, but within the clan, he was completely unremarkable. His results in the clan's private school, which mainly focused on fire style and Ganjutsu, were abysmal. The clan had even considered giving up on training him until he pestered an elder in charge of the clan's jutsu archive and managed to obtain his first lightning style jutsu. Only then did his true talent begin to shine. Given Sasuke's current situation, Fugaku naturally thought of having him learn from Kuragami. Besides, Fugaku added, "You know I'm not good at raising children. Itachi has already strayed from the right path, so I want to entrust Sasuke to you." "I understand." From now on, have Sasuke come to me after school," Kuragami said with a smile. "Then I'll be counting on you, Kuragami-kun," Fugaku said solemnly. "Elder Fugaku, there's no need for such formality. If I can help a child in a situation similar to mine avoid unnecessary struggles, I'm more than happy to do so," Kuragami replied. "No, Kuragami, this is a father's gratitude," Fugaku said emotionally. "I trust you with Sasuke's future. I won't let you down," Kuragami promised. "Then I won't disturb you any longer," Fugaku said as he took his leave. Kuragami stood up to see him off. After Fugaku left, Kuragami finished maintaining his sword and went to rest. The next day, when Kuragami arrived at his office in the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, he saw that his subordinates had redecorated it while he was away on his mission. Satisfied, he nodded in approval. Chapter 35, The Red Envelope. After Kuragami Uchiha became the clan head and took on the role of vice captain in the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, the department had only managed to clear out a very simple office for him due to time constraints. Besides a desk and a file rack, there was nothing extra in terms of decoration. This time, while he was out on a mission, the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force took the opportunity to give his office a minor renovation. Not only were the desks and chairs replaced with new ones, but the file cabinet was also carefully reorganized. On one side of the office, there was now a display shelf holding a complete set of tea utensils, clearly crafted by a renowned artisan, along with several carefully selected, high-quality teas. On the other side, there was a traditional-looking sword rack. The spot where the sword should rest was empty, seemingly reserved for Kuragami Uchiha's sword, Swift Thunder. Kuragami Uchiha placed his sword onto the rack and turned his gaze toward the wall behind his seat. This was what pleased him the most. The otherwise blank wall had no elaborate decorations, just a framed calligraphy piece with 4 large words: just governance, harmonious people. As he settled into his chair, a report summarizing the recent complaints received by the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force was delivered to him on behalf of Fugaku. After scanning through the reports, Kuragami Uchiha selected a group of individuals who had received the highest number of complaints and summoned both them and their team leaders to his office. Before long, the room was filled with people. Kuragami Uchiha glanced at the main subjects of the complaints. Most of them were fresh graduates from the Ninja Academy, some even younger than himself. It made sense. The older ones knew better how to restrain themselves, while these newly graduated kids were still full of enthusiasm for the will of fire. Naturally, they approached their work with unwavering determination, which led them to conflict with the village's opportunistic troublemakers, resulting in numerous complaints. Meanwhile, the leaders in charge of these patrol teams, mostly Uchiha clan members, looked rather helpless. Ever since Kuragami Uchiha took charge, they had been reminding their subordinates daily to enforce the law with a smile. The young ones followed the orders, yet the complaint rate remained high. Kuragami Uchiha laid out the complaint filed before them. "Vice Captain Kuragami, it's really not their fault. They were simply enforcing the law fairly, and they strictly adhered to the smiling enforcement policy. These complaints are nothing but malicious reports." One of the squad leaders stepped forward to explain. "I know. I've reviewed all the law enforcement records," Kuragami Uchiha replied. "I didn't call you here to punish you." After turning his attention to the young civilian ninjas standing behind their leaders, he asked, "How has it been working in the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force so far?" Reporting to the vice captain, "Everything has been going smoothly. We are honored to serve in the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force." A particularly bold young man puffed out his chest as he responded. "Ueno Sakitamura." Kuragami Uchiha glanced at the documents and called out his name. "Very impressive. Within just 3 days, you handled 3 cases of illegal street vending and arrested 7 drunken troublemakers." "That was just my duty," Ueno Sakitamura replied proudly. "But your complaint rate..." Before Kuragami Uchiha could finish his sentence, Ueno Sakitamura lowered his head, looking utterly dejected. "Why the long face?" Kuragami Uchiha suddenly chuckled. "In the Hidden Leaf Village Military Police Force, complaint rates are not considered in performance evaluations." "Huh?" Ueno Sakitamura lifted his head in confusion. To be honest, he had already braced himself for a scolding. With an 80,000 ryo monthly salary, additional benefits, and a powerful C-rank jutsu handed to him on his very first day, getting reprimanded would have been a small price to pay. But now, the vice captain wasn't planning to scold them. "Our position inevitably invites misunderstanding from the villagers," Kuragami Uchiha continued. "But serving Hidden Leaf Village means we must endure certain grievances. We must always remember the teachings of the will of fire. Have faith, we are doing something great." As he spoke, Kuragami Uchiha took out a thick red envelope from his pocket and placed it in Ueno Sakitamura's hands. Well done. This is a reward for your hard work these past few days. Then, Kuragami Uchiha took out a stack of red envelopes and distributed them to everyone in the room. Once he finished, he returned to his desk and continued, I hope all of you will continue your efforts, work together, and build a better Hidden Leaf village. The civilian ninjas, now holding their red envelopes, were deeply moved, and Uranosuke Tamura even saluted on the spot. Salute to the vice captain. Loyalty. 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 Kuragami Uchiha returned the salute. After this group left, he called in the next batch and repeated the process. By midday, every member of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force had received a red envelope from Kuragami Uchiha. The Uchiha clan members were used to their new clan head's generosity, but the civilian ninjas were completely stunned. After receiving their red envelopes, their morale skyrocketed. The previous frustration from the high complaint rates vanished entirely. Now that the red envelopes had been handed out, Kuragami Uchiha finally had time to relax. He brewed himself a cup of tea. In total, he had given 20,000 ryo to each division leader, 10,000 ryo to each team leader, and 5,000 ryo to every regular team member. The total expense was just under 3 million ryo. For someone holding vast financial resources like Kuragami Uchiha, this was nothing. However, he knew this money would only temporarily stabilize the morale within the Hidden Leaf Village military police force and slightly raise their tolerance for the village's troublemakers. To truly resolve the issue, he needed an opportunity, one that would allow them to vent their frustration from these malicious complaints. As for the villagers' satisfaction? Kuragami Uchiha had never cared about that. The so-called smiling enforcement and the public complaint box were just for show. If Hidden Leaf Village's troublemakers were dissatisfied, well, a police baton would make them behave. I just hope those two old geezers don't keep me waiting too long. Kuragami Uchiha thought as he sipped his tea. At that moment, there was a knock on his office door. Come in. The door opened, and when Kuragami Uchiha saw who it was, he smiled. Shisui, perfect timing. I was just about to look for you. Here, this red envelope is for you. In the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, everyone gets one. Chapter 36, Sasuke and Naruto, Part 1, Come, Shisui, have a seat. Kuragami Uchiha gestured for Shisui to sit down and poured him a cup of tea. Although Shisui had returned to work at the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, it was natural that Fugaku would not fully trust him. As a result, he was only assigned to a logistics position. Kuragami, the complaint rate against the Hidden Leaf Village military police force is way too high. We can't keep going like this. Shisui Uchiha looked worried. Shisui, I also find this situation difficult to handle. Kuragami Uchiha feigned a troubled expression and rubbed his forehead. When the Uchiha clan solely managed the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, the villagers were dissatisfied. Now that we've recruited so many civilian ninjas, they're still unhappy. I really don't know what else we can do. Shisui let out a long sigh. He couldn't understand why, despite the clan's efforts to integrate into the village, there had been so little progress. Forget it. At the very least, let's first use these red envelopes to stabilize the morale of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force. As for the rest, we'll leave it to time. Kuragami Uchiha looked at Shisui. Once the village sees our sincerity, we will definitely come to an understanding with them. That's right, I believe in your judgment. Shisui Uchiha said. Take the red envelope. Everyone in the Hidden Leaf Village military police force gets one, and you shouldn't be an exception. You're a part of the Hidden Leaf Village military police force, after all. Kuragami Uchiha pushed the red envelope toward Shisui. I understand. Shisui originally did not want to accept it, but Kuragami Uchiha's reasoning left him with no choice. After Shisui left, Kuragami Uchiha relaxed in his chair and flipped through a copy of the incriminating evidence he had obtained from Orochimaru while thinking to himself, at this time, he wonders, when the time comes, will Shisui stand by the will of fire, or will he stand with the village? Time passed quickly, and soon, it was time to get off work. After sitting for an entire afternoon, Kuragami Uchiha stretched, tidied up his desk, and prepared to head home. After all, a certain little brat was coming over tonight. At the same time, Kakashi, who had spent the day cleaning out a room for Naruto at the Hokage clan's old residence, also stepped out of his house and headed toward the Ninja Academy. Right now, the academy was dismissing its students, and for Naruto, this was always the hardest part of the day. Other kids either had family members picking them up or walked home with friends. But Naruto, having neither family nor friends, could only sit alone on the school's swing, waiting until everyone else had left before heading home. At least this way, there would be fewer judgmental stares along the way. For Sasuke, however, dismissal time was the moment he looked forward to the most. Every day, He would be the first to rush out of school, hoping to see his beloved older brother waiting for him. If he saw Itachi, the rest of his day would be filled with joy. But today, instead of his kind older brother, Sasuke was met with the serious expression of his father. Father? Seeing Fugaku at the school gate, Sasuke was surprised. Let's go, Sasuke. Fugaku Uchiha said with a cold face, signaling with his eyes for Sasuke to follow him. The two walked in single file toward the Uchiha clan district. Father, why isn't my brother here to pick me up today? After a while, Sasuke couldn't help but ask. Itachi has a mission to attend to. Fugaku Uchiha replied. Oh. Okay. Sasuke looked disappointed upon hearing this. Also, I've arranged for you to have a teacher.